The DNC boss, Ken Martin, threw a phone at an aide's desk, triggering an HR complaint. Actually, it sounds like he was in rage attacking this staff. I don't know, not like maybe trying to hurt the person, but whipping a phone at their desk could seriously hurt them. Well, here's the thing. The DNC has put up their headquarters as collateral for a loan because they are desperate and broke. At a time when the Republicans have hundreds of millions of dollars as the Republicans, not to mention their super PACs and political organizations in the periphery, put them at near $1 billion cash. It's a pretty wild day. We're going to talk about that. And then Zoran Mamdani has just, man, wow. The dude's really cranking up the dial to 11. He published a list. He doxed all of the property owners and entities that own property that he says will be subject to his pied-à-terre tax. However, some people have come out saying, yo, that's a private residence. That's not a secondary home. Dude lives there. In other words, Mamdani is being accused of putting out a target list of wealthy individuals who live in the city. At the same time, he's announced they will be opening 5 grocery stores where they will put a 30% discount on all prices for all goods for the entire month. Okay, we're going to get into that in great detail, but I'm just going to tell you what that does. Destroys neighboring grocery stores because they can't compete with 30% lower prices. Results in shortages at the existing government grocery stores because now there's no other grocery stores that exist. And then eventually, with no groceries in the government grocery stores, you get food deserts. Mayor Mamdani is intentionally destroying the city. There's no other argument. I mean, we have seen in recent history with Venezuela, some 15 years ago, they did the exact same thing. We saw all of this happen. So, seems like it's on purpose. And then, my friends, the secret Biden tapes are out. 70 plus hours, they're saying, of recordings of Joe Biden he's talking to his ghostwriter. Apparently, these are the records that they were trying to delete or hide or something like that. We'll break it down. But this story just broke, and we've not had a chance to actually go through any of the recordings. So we'll be talking about that and a whole lot more. Before we do, my friends, we've got a great sponsor for you. It is Tax Network USA. Do you owe back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? Did you retire and suddenly get hit with a tax bill you didn't expect? Are you a business owner with messy books and a balance you can't afford? However your tax issue started, the outcome is the same. Your balance is not going down. Penalties grow. Interest compounds, and many of you are about to owe again for this upcoming tax year with no plan in place. Stop what you're doing and call Tax Network USA. The IRS is not waiting. They're enforcing collections through wage garnishments, bank levies, and property seizures, and they can even file for you without your consent. This is where Tax Network USA comes in. With over 15 years in a business, there hasn't been a tax case they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. They can do the same for you, but you have to call now. They're offering a free investigation call with the IRS. After that, they make a clear case plan to resolve your tax problem and get you back on track. It's about using your legal rights to take control before the government sets terms for you. So do not wait for another IRS letter or frozen bank account. Call 866-686-1535. That's 866-686-1535. Or go to tnusa.com/Tim. And also don't forget, you got to join us at timcast.com. We just had the members only Cast Brew Coffee Shop grand opening in Martinsburg, West Virginia. The best part was several people come up to me and said the Discord has been so helpful in their lives. It helped bring community to their lives. Some of them were saying, they didn't really hang out with anybody. They didn't have any neighbors. And now they hang out in this Discord server with tens of thousands of people. They made friends. They play games online. They've had meetups. It's really fantastic to hear. But most importantly, aside from building community, you as members make what we do possible. So if you believe that what we do is important and you want this show to keep going, we need your support now. Join us at timcast.com. But don't forget to smash that like button, share the show with everyone you've ever met in your life. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more, we got Will Fry.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
Who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so I run a company called American Operator. We're tackling the succession crisis in this country. So we have millions of small businesses owned by folks nearing retirement. Their kids don't want to take over the business. We come in, buy the business, partner with a local operator, and ultimately turn them into the majority owner. And so we want a world where the American dream is still achievable and all these businesses aren't owned by private equity.
That would be fantastic. All right, it should be interesting because we got a lot to talk about, especially with the population crisis.
Yep.
So we talk about it quite a bit, but it'll be interesting with you here. Thanks for coming. We also got the boys hanging out.
What's going on, guys? It hasn't been that long. I think it was here on Thursday last week. What's going on? It's Brett. Normally doing PCC Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, but there's a lot to get into today. Happy to be here.
What's up, everybody? I'm Phil. I sing For All That Remains, and I hang out here a lot. What's up, Carter?
What's up, Carter? I do not sing For All That Remains, but I'm pumped to get into this right now. Welcome back, Brett. It's good to have you. Let's get into the news.
Here's a story from the New York Post. Raging DNC boss Ken Martin threw phone at aide's desk as committee forced to put up headquarters as loan collateral. It's a double whammy of a story today. Dude apparently lost his mind and threw his phone at the desk of an aide in a fit of rage. It resulted in an HR complaint. Now, I would say that isn't like. Would you guys agree? I know the media tries to put their headlines lightly, but I would call that attacking a staffer.
I mean, if he hit him, that could be considered assault.
I don't think you need to, like, you could attack somebody. Like, if someone shot at you, would you say they're attacking you?
Well, yes.
But they don't hit you. No. Like, I'm saying if this dude threw his phone at the aide and it hit their desk, what's he trying to hit?
Well, is that like the question of intentionality? Was he just throwing it wild and just happened to hit near the aide? Or did the aide say something that annoyed him? He's like, you know what? F you specifically, and threw it.
It would be really funny if the actual story was that it was an underhanded toss to another staffer. He's like, hey, you need my, he's like, hey, I need your phone. He's like, oh, here, catch. And he does an underhanded toss and it bounced on the desk. But because we know Democrats are so dainty and terrified of everything, the person sitting at the desk would start screaming, he's throwing his phone at me.
If the person that his aide wasn't his aide, they might think to, file an assault charge. But considering that they're, two peas in a pod, I don't think that.
But he's still narked, though.
Yeah, good.
Someone had to tell.
Well, no, because I think what actually happened is dude went ballistic and whipped his phone.
Yeah.
I don't think for a second it was just like a playful thing. I think he was freaking out and whipped it. Yo, the second part of this story, this is all just dropping today, is that they had apparently, and this was not known, but I believe it was last year or several months ago, listed their building, the equity in their building, as collateral for a loan of $15 million because they're broke. The Democratic Party's broke. You know my favorite thing about this is? Dude responds apparently and says, this is not at all out of the ordinary. We've taken out loans in 2019, 2018, and 2014 as well. And it's like, wow, the Democratic Party's been in that bad of shape for this long?
I mean, I imagine the loan is because they believe they can, make the money back through fundraising, but they need to pay payroll and stuff.
I don't believe that for a second because they've been bleeding money and donors. The party is currently fighting itself. And they're $3-point-something million in debt. They don't have donors right now. They don't think they can make the money back.
The reason I say that is I'm thinking about the way that businesses take loans to make payroll and stuff like that. They know that they're waiting on money coming in or whatever. Look, I don't know the inside workings of the DNC. I'm just thinking of what.
No, I understand that point, and I would say I don't believe for a second that anyone at the DNC thinks they're going to make this money back.
They've that they were calling vendors and asking to delay payment until after the reelection. Yep. But I think the irony when you're rattling off the headlines, this is the same party that's also advocating for 30% discounts on groceries. And it's like you can't even manage your own party.
Well, but here's the thing. The party's fighting itself. Half the people in the Democrats don't like Mamdani and the DSA. So I think the real issue is they ain't going to pay this money back. Who's going to donate to the Democrats when half the Democrats hate the other half?
I mean, you don't think that there's going to be donations that come in once 2028 comes into clear view? We figure out who's going to be taking on who once primaries start going on, then fundraising starts going back on?
Let's just say yes, but this means right now we're 100 days from the midterms. They have no money to run campaigns right now. They have negative, so they've got like 12 million cash on hand and then like 16 or 17 million in debt. So they're floating, right? It's like a lot of Americans experiencing this, and unfortunately many of them voting for Democrats, but that's how they live. You got 20 grand in credit card debt or student loans, so you're living paycheck to paycheck, barely paying off your loans. After the midterms, how are they going to pay back money when they're in debt? they're going to be floating the debt amongst other vendors. They're going to have to liquidate something. Give up.
I also think right now is when they're most flush, ramping up to a re-election.
Oh, I mean, no. It's a midterm where they're the opposition. They should have $1 billion.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. Historically, their polling should be double digits. It's 4 points. They're polling 4 points in the positive, above water. It needs to be around 10 to 15 if they want to take the margins they need to win. So now you got CNN's living meme, Harry Enton. And I always clarify this. It's not an insult. It's because he's so shocked all of the time about the polling data of how bad Democrats are that it's just every day there's a new video of him going, oh my, how are Democrats doing so bad? And it's like every day he's just, I'm shocked. And somehow, the prediction markets think Democrats are going to take Congress.
Well, I mean,
it's a historic trend. So.
I think that's the reason. It's because of the trend, right? Historically, this is generally what happens, and the Republicans aren't popular. There's as much as there is a war going on in the DNC or in the Democrat Party. There's definitely a lot of people in the Republican Party that are unhappy with Trump. They're unhappy with the war in Iran.
Not being able to pass the SAVE Act.
Not being able to pass the SAVE Act. They're unhappy with they don't feel like the wages have risen to offset inflation. So look, there's a lot of tumult in both the Republican and Democrat Party. I don't know that turns into a victory for the Republicans. I mean, I wish, because, and I've said it here a boatload of times, like if your option is a Democrat or a Republican, the Republican is clearly better. But at the same time, it's like, look, man, there's a lot of chaos going on in both the parties because you've got a lot of different people with different agendas. Whether either one will be able to coalesce around their respective representatives that are up, who knows?
It's an indictment on just how unpopular Democrats are right now, because they should be handily winning right now with the amount of discord going on in the Republican Party and the amount of people, what did we talk about last Thursday? We talked about the Maha moms, and we talked about the libertarian types who have since abandoned it, what it felt like everybody was a one-issue voter, and when their one issue didn't get solved or didn't get taken care of, they moved on to other things. So it really is an indictment. Like, I don't remember who it is recently, but basically said, like, literally all the Democrats have to do right now is just not be stupid.
Well, bro, if the Democrats just came out and said, like, we will no longer support gay communism, their polling would jump 20 points. But the problem is they can't, because they love gay communism. Especially
if you look at the DSA's platform. The DSA's platform is incredibly radical. And the people that are running as DSA, or that are running as Democrats from the DSA, they've been instructed by the DSA to misdirect people as to what they actually do. I had a guy that was on X that was hooting and hollering at me because he's like, oh, it's the Nordic model. DSA wants the Nordic model. I'm like, bro, they do not want the Nordic model. Actually, I didn't even say that.
They have private health insurance.
Yeah, I just told Grok
they also
to
have
explain
the
it to
department. They want to defund the Department of War.
Well, I mean, the DSA,
they have prisons. They want to get rid of prisons.
Yeah, there was a woman on Fox News recently that was explaining she was going down a list of the DSA policies. They want to expropriate major corporations, like all major corporations. They want to close.
They want to abolish the presidency.
They want to abolish the presidency.
And the
Senate. You can't abolish the Senate. Okay, like that is the one. There is a clause in Article 5 that says you cannot get rid of the Senate. It's the only thing that an amendment can't do.
You can get rid of the Senate.
Well, you have to get rid of the whole Constitution. Yes, and I understand that.
And that they want to do that as well.
Yes,
they say that explicitly. So here's my conspiracy theory: is like at this point, these guys got to be like secret Republicans.
They can't even get into office.
It's like this lady who's on TV on Fox News. And I think it was like Martha McCallum was asking her questions about her, like just literally reading the DSA website. She's like, you want to abolish the presidency and the Senate? And she's like, yes, it's a long-term plan. It's like, you want to get rid of prisons? Yes. You want to get rid of the Department of Defense? Yes, absolutely. Or the Department of, what did you say, the Pentagon? And then I can only assume, I mean, come on, this is a caricature of what the left is, right? If this woman is, it doesn't matter if this woman is actually Republican or is actually serious. It's the same thing. If you go on TV as a representative of Democrats and say something psychotic, the Democrats lose points. You
can't take an oath to support and defend the Constitution and then after telling everybody that you're going to literally rip up the Constitution. These people cannot be in office.
So, sure. And the Republicans are, what's the right way to describe the Republicans? Flaccid?
Yeah.
Because you have this other story we're going to get to with Dr. Fauci's diary, where in January of 2020, he says outright, we know it did not come from the wet market. And then for what? 2 years, they were like, no, the wet market, when they knew that was not true. If you can't put these people in prison, you have no country. And I'm going to tell you this right now. The Republicans are going to go, but Biden issued a blanket 11-year pardon. I guess we can't do anything. And I'm like, if you can't do anything about that, because the president issued an 11-year pardon, you don't got a country. Sorry, I don't care what you think about the Constitution and plenary pardoning powers. If your country can't stop evil, then you have succumbed to it.
First of all, yes, that should happen. Like, the president should just ignore it. But even if they didn't, the president should be on the phone with Bukele and arrange extradition for Fauci to El Salvador, because COVID hit El Salvador. COVID hit every country in the world. So there you go. There's got to be plenty of countries that could do it.
Yes, they're not going to do it. So when we see the DSA coming out and saying things like, we will destroy the Constitution, and then they win office and they have to swear an oath to it, the Republicans are like, no, we're not going to do anything about that. When the Republicans could very simply in Congress be like, if you have ever stated anything against the U.S. Constitution, you won't be sworn in. Goodbye.
Should be.
They won't do it. They won't do it. I'd do it.
They fundraise off people like that anyway.
Someone, when the next on January 3rd, when they're doing the new Congress, nominate me for Speaker of the House, and I will just rampage through that place, because you don't have to be in Congress to be elected to be Speaker. I will go nuts. I will not swear in half of these Democrats. I'll be like, I'm gonna have people comb through their social media, and if at any point they're like, the Constitution is bad, I'll be like, well, you can't be sworn in. Can't swear and know something you think is bad. So goodbye.
Yeah.
Tell your district to send somebody else.
It should be that simple. Like, look, you can't swear to support and defend the Constitution. You want to make all these changes to the Constitution that cannot be made.
To be
Don't
fair, if somehow by some insane stretch of the imagination, I was nominated Speaker of the House and actually got voted in, I imagine I'd eat polonium before they actually let me anywhere near that building. So.
Well, ask if you could run it from here.
Yeah, in a glass box. My joke was like, if you ever actually got a real politician, someone who was like, I'm going to do some real things and clean this up, you'd have to put him in a like 5-foot thick, bulletproof, earthquake-proof, suspended with like a totally clear
Permanent Pope Mobile.
Like, you have to live in a biodome, Pauly Shore style, because they will kill you.
Well, like, no, what was he in V for Vendetta? He's like, he always gives the speech on the screen, but he's never actually in the room that he was in.
Oh, right, exactly.
Chancellor.
To be fair, I mean, what would really happen is if any real person got elected, they just accuse him of drugs or rape or something,
Give
and
him
then
50 charges of some kind of felonious stuff.
your felony, you
happened in college. Just like Kavanaugh. It happened in college. I don't remember when. I don't remember if I was there. Nobody else remembers either, but it happened in college.
Or even Trump's tax stuff. I mean, it's the same tactics Russia does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I wonder who they learned from.
I do wonder, though, like you said, like they're fantastic for Republicans. Are the DSA candidates secret Republicans? Maybe that sounds true now, but the newer generations are becoming more and more warm to the idea of democratic socialism, as it's phrased, and they're not thinking of it in the same way. They're going to be okay with these ideas as things get worse for them.
Part of the reason why they're okay with these things is because they do think most people think when they hear socialism, they think of quote unquote the Nordic model, but that's not what the DSA wants.
I'm gonna blow some minds right now. We're gonna blow some minds. You guys ready?
Yes.
Do you know what we talked about this last week? But I'm gonna say it again. You guys know what the average, median, and mean salaries of an American millionaire is? I think you guys might know, so I'm going to ask Will. Do you know? How much money per year salary-wise do you think the average American millionaire makes?
100,000.
It's about right. So 160. So the average is like 184, but of course that accounts for people.
Millionaire like counts their retirement account.
So like if someone's making if someone's got like $900 million, yeah, well they're gonna skew it. So when you go median, it's about 165K.
Sure.
Go tell some Gen Z BuzzFeed employee who's getting 150K a year that he has a salary comparable to the average millionaire. He's like, what? Like in their minds, they think a millionaire is making $1 million a year. That's not true. The issue is they're communists who don't know how to save and financially plan, so they blame everybody else. And when these people say tax the rich, but they're making 90 to 100K a year, and their salaries are close or comparable to that of millionaires, what they're really saying is, I want to take from the people who are being responsible because I'm stupid.
Yeah.
Bob Iger's base salary was only $1 million for running.
Right. But let's not play
Even
games.
like
Like,
your
I'm saying base salary is way higher.
Jeff Bezos paid himself $1 million a year. That's ridiculous. The reality is the average. There's about 23 million millionaires in the United States. The average salary, like the normal median salary, is about $165K, and it's because in their late 20s they're getting like mid to high five figures, and they start saving.
Yep.
Then they're in their mid 30s and they buy their first property. By the time they're in their early 40s, they've got a property, they got some stocks, and they have passive income on the side. So one of the interesting things I read is that actually a large portion of millionaires make about $80,000 to $90,000 a year, but they've been working for 20 years, saving up their disposable income and building assets which have grown in value, giving them a net worth around $1 million to $3 million. Now go tell one of these New Yorker people who's making $120,000 to $150,000 a year that with proper financial planning, they too will be a millionaire, and they're not going to believe you, and they're going to demand that someone go and steal the money from everybody else.
I think part of the issue also is we're just seeing the results of what happened at colleges. And it's just playing out now, where like the skew of the amount of teachers who are liberal versus conservative went from like 2.3 in the 80s to 5 nowadays. And so they're just, the Overton window of what they're getting educated about in college has shifted so much.
I think
check it.
There must be something in the water. Let's pull up this story. Zoran Mamdani has announced they will be opening 5 city-run tax-funded grocery stores with 30% below retail. I'm going to tell you why that's a problem. Because the margins for these grocery stores are about 2 to 3% as it is. So you drop prices by 30%, you will put every grocery store around this out of business. Let me play this clip and then talk to you about why I think Zoran Mamdani is intentionally trying to burn down New York City.
Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line.
This already was tried in numerous countries, namely Venezuela, and we saw exactly what everyone's been warning will happen. And it is because we watched it happen over and over and over again, we know it will happen. Local bodegas, small grocery stores, their bodegas and small grocery stores will not be able to compete with core goods that are below, they're 30% below retail. When given the choice, somebody might say, you know what, I'm going to go to a grocery store and I'm going to grab some milk, bread, and eggs. Hey, you know what? I might as well grab a roast beef and cheddar while I'm at the bodega and pick up some candy bars. Excess selling disposable income. Now they're going to say, well, look, I got to get milk, bread, and eggs, but it's $1 here, it's 70 cents there. I'm going to go to the cheapo place. Now they're buying less. Economic activity depressed. The bodegas can't compete. And even if they lose 5% of their business, they go out of business. What's going to happen is in the surrounding areas, people are going to choose to go to the government location instead. It's going to cause the bodegas each to lose a small percentage, but enough for them to go under. The government-run grocery store will then run out of goods and not be able to restock fast enough. You will then get massive lines out the door with shortages in the only grocery store within 5 miles. And it's going to happen in 5 different areas, creating food deserts, which, again, I'm not making up. It's been tracked historically, and economists have warned about it over and over again. Now, Zoran Mamdani knows this. There is no reality in the entirety of the multiverse where Zoran Mamdani doesn't know this, because anyone with Google thinking, hey, what would happen if I opened a grocery store and did this? Enter. It goes warning, 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 warning like crazy. So it has to be on purpose. And you know what? He also published the addresses of wealthy individuals, which we'll get to in a second. He's basically saying, all money get out. We're going to flatten the city. And now I'm going to tell you what I think Zoran Mamdani's real plan is. I think he's like the bad guys in RoboCop. You're going to destroy the city. Skyscrapers, large buildings all become worthless. You buy them up for pennies on the dollar. 10 years later, there's a recovery. Now you're a billionaire. That's what I think he's actually doing. Because when you look at everything he's doing with targeting the wealthy properties, he's destroying luxury properties, destroying impoverished neighborhoods, driving out the wealth and the industry and the business owners. All these big companies announcing they're leaving. All the wealthy individuals fleeing to Palm Beach. And what happens? Property values will implode, and then the city can go, because this is what de Blasio said they were going to do during COVID. Buy up skyscrapers for pennies on the dollars, convert it into into government housing.
Look, they're making a RoboCop TV series over at Amazon, so they could get Zoran Mamdani to be the bad guy in that one. That's perfect.
But the funny thing is, you know what I love? I was watching with this Fauci news that has come out, they're replaying all this crazy stuff from the COVID era. And the pharmaceutical comes in. It's just funny. I'm watching Donald Trump do this rally in Michigan, and he's like, the Democrats are owned by the insurance companies. That's why they do it. They won't let you buy your products. And it's really funny because it's true.
It's a good impression.
It's a jokey impression, but like Democrats are basically like, I don't want to be able to price my own health care and negotiate with my doctor on pricing. I want insurance companies to do it. And you're like, but I thought you didn't like the pharmaceuticals and the insurance companies. No, the Democrats keep voting in favor of this. It's the weirdest thing that Democrats vote in favor of insurance company pricing, but also while complaining that insurance companies are ruining healthcare.
Yeah.
Wait, what? Like, is that different than their proposed single-payer model? Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't remember this discussion at all.
When the Republicans come out on the stage and say, healthcare should be private, meaning you should be able to negotiate with your doctor pricing. You should be able to list prices out. They go, oh, you're far right. This is insane. This is far right. No. We've got to make it so the government controls and regulates. And then you end up with this insurance companies giggling and laughing because they lobby the Democrats and keep the system in place. Now, don't get me wrong. Sure, Democrats complain about it. And they're like, the government should just control all of it. That's not much different. They're arguing for a command economy, and they're getting it while complaining about it.
And they're destroying the American dream. I mean, first they attack the business owners who are actively trying to build it for themselves, and then they go after the folks who have achieved it and have these homes.
Yeah, look, to people that are on the far left, people like Zoran Mamdani, the American dream is either a lie or it's aligned with white supremacy, aligned with oppressor versus oppressed narrative. They don't believe that you can be successful without hurting someone else. So it's literally the most caustic and motivated by envy ideology that you can come up with. Literally. That's why you see all these attempts to try to take from people that have done things. I mean, the guy's putting people's actual home addresses online. Like he doesn't know what's going to happen, you know? Yeah. It's just straight up, envy and hatred for people.
I think maybe at the lower levels, but Mamdani is not a stupid guy. It's coordinated. It's calculated. He's playing chess.
I think that Mamdani might be one of the people that believes that every narrative that's positive about the U.S. and things like that believes it's all a CIA op.
Maybe, but what I'm saying is there's no way he's going, wow, a government-run grocery store will help people. No, he's sitting there back with his advisors being like, okay, so what kind of depression are we looking at? And they're like, oh, I mean, we might see like 20% of the city flee. This is going to result in property value collapse. And then he's going, okay, and then do we have the backers, the underwriters, so that we can buy up these properties? And they're like, we're lining them now as we speak. He knows exactly what he's doing. It is really, really, let me tell you guys something really funny. You guys ever, you go on Instagram, you ever just scroll mindlessly on Instagram sometimes? Have you seen these videos where people are like, you could only choose two, and then it's them standing there with their arms crossed or they're pointing up, and it's a list of things, and it'll be like $10 million right now. Number 2, you never have to sleep again. Have you guys ever seen these things?
Yes, yeah.
There's a whole bunch of them where it's like you can have $10 million right now. You can have $1,000 an hour for the rest of your life. You never have to go to work again, which is like, what does that even mean? Yeah. And then I saw one where it's like 100 rental properties right now. And I busted out laughing when I saw that. I saw it like 4 or 5 times from like these Gen Z influencer accounts being like, you could only choose 3 as if they're all good. And it's like, if I could have $1,000 per hour, $24,000 per day, I'll take that one. If you woke up and you had responsibility on 100 rental properties, you would lose your mind.
Yeah.
You would panic. This 100 rental properties means you're going to have, I'd estimate 75 employees around there. You're going to be dealing with law. And listen, as the owner, the government's going to be coming after you on every violation. Like owning a corporation that manages 100 rental properties is no small feat. You can just wake up and have. But these socialist types, these people, they don't understand that. Like it's like when you saw that clip the other day from Bobby Lee. I did a segment about it on Friday, where he's like, "What do you need $1 trillion for? If I had $1 trillion, I'd burn all. I'd do something really good and then get rid of it and keep $1 billion." And the other guy was like, "I'd build a bunch of desalinization plants." It's desalination, I know, but he calls it desalinization. And then I'm like, desalination plants destroy the ocean life on the bottom floor, causing this effect, this domino effect that kills off. It creates dead zones. That's one of the reasons we don't build them. And Elon Musk literally doesn't have $1 trillion. But these people are all as dumb as a box of rocks. They don't get this. My point, Mamdani is not at that level. Mamdani knows full well he's dealt with a large campaign to run for mayor. He's dealt with these finances, these numbers. He knows exactly what's going on. When you say, hey, if we put a 30% reduced grocery store in this area, what's going to happen? It's a black hole. He knows this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's part of me that thinks he's a true believer in the power of socialism.
How is it possible that he was able to rally campaign financing, deal with banking and tax law in the FEC?
He was a failed rapper before.
How is it possible that he's able to deal with FEC law, legal divisions, and then not know these things? That's not possible. I'm sorry. It's just not possible.
At the very least, he has advisors who have told him the fallout of what would happen, even if he doesn't necessarily.
The only argument would be he literally doesn't do anything at all and just sits there, and Soros is behind him running all the paperwork. But again, when the reason I bring up the rental properties thing is because the moment you actually try dealing with the banks and lenders to set up a rental property, and then you sign up for Airbnb and do all this, you go, how the would I do 100 of these? Yeah. That's not possible. Cleaning, turnover. Bro, oh man, and then you have people show up and trash the place. Now multiply that by 100, and you're like, I'm gonna need a corporation for this. I can't be the only person running this company. You are not going to have a single member entity at that level. Mamdani could not get to this level without understanding these mechanisms.
Before I worked here, I worked for an apartment maintenance, like a company that worked for apartment. You know, we ran an apartment, like 4 apartments in one area, right? And I did the general maintenance there. And this was during COVID. So people weren't paying their rent. Stuff was getting absolutely trashed in businesses. And the company was losing hundreds of thousands of dollars on turnovers that were even worse than normal because people were in their apartments more than normal. And they were spending all their money on TVs and not actually paying their rent. It was awful.
I had a rental property once. I have a rental management company handling it. My phone rings and I answer it. It's a tenant calling me directly. They found my phone number. Fridge is broken. And I said, you got to talk to the rental management company because, I'm just like, I own the And they were like, okay, well, we're withholding rent until the fridge is fixed. Okay, I guess. I mean, like, I don't want to leave you hanging. Rental management company says they broke the fridge. And I said, well, how does this work? I'm like, you got to pay it. And then I said, okay, so pay it. And they're like, okay, so your remittance for this month will be negative, $300. And then, like, don't worry. What'll happen is once the rent comes, upwards, like we'll apply future rent towards the negative balance. We were negative balance like 3-4 months. Like stove broke. It's like, what's happening? And they're like, oh, the tenants broke the stove. Okay, what does that mean? It means you got to fix it. And I'm like, but they broke it. It's like, doesn't matter. That's not the way rental works. AC broke. And I'm like, what happened? They broke the AC.
Also something
they broke the face, and now it's got to get replaced, and they can't turn the AC on. You got to fix it.
Also something that they never take into account when they talk about how they're never going to own a home, and never realize that all the things they benefit from by renting rather than owning, because they wouldn't actually want to to fix the stove. They don't actually want to fix the water heater. They don't actually want to fix the AC. They want somebody else to do it while complaining about the cost of the rent.
Yeah, now you have these videos. You see this video where it's like young black men. They're probably like 18, 19. They Airbnb a house, destroy it, and then when the Asian man shows up because the people were like neighbors were complaining, they punch him in the face.
Awesome.
So again, let's jump to the story and talk about what Mamdani does and does not know. From the New York Post. Mamdani publishes names and addresses of all NYC property owners who could be hit with a new pied-à-terre tax. He doxed everybody who owns valuable property. This is not who could be hit with the tax. He just published a list, 2 lists actually, of all of the properties that are at a certain value. So we've got this. I think this might be the tweet here. Hayden Adams tweeted this. He's invented the Uniswap protocol. Wow, that's actually pretty crazy. This is the worst mass doxing I've ever seen. Just personally searched several high-end apartment buildings that include people I personally know's primary residence, not a pied-à-terre. Not only were their units listed, but nearly every unit in the entire building was listed. They clearly took an incredibly expansive view of could be, and just doxed a huge percentage of all expensive apartments in New York City. Absolutely everyone involved in this. This is incredibly dangerous. The original post was, The city published a list of all properties and the names of the owners that could be subject to a new pied-à-terre tax in a very easy-to-search Excel sheet. Indeed, they did.
What is this? What is the steelman argument for publishing this list?
There isn't one.
There isn't one.
There isn't one that they can give an explanation to a Democrat, to a blue dog Democrat who just wants to know why you publish this list and doesn't want communism or the destruction.
There's no argument for doing so. If you're going to tax these people,
you have their contact information, and they're already sending them mailers letting them know they're getting a tax.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to do this.
There's one reason. To get them killed, to get the properties targeted. You ever hear that joke where it's like it's actually in a bunch of movies too. A guy rents or a woman will rent an apartment, and then she hears a gunshot and she freaks out, and then she looks at the windows and she's like an old black guy in the backyard pointing a gun at the ground, and she freaks out and she looks and she's like, what's going on? And he's like, nah, don't be worried, man. I just once a week fire it into the ground to keep the property values down, to keep the property taxes down. This is basically what they're doing, I guess. So I guess the idea is destroy the value of the property. That's why I said he's like RoboCop villain. Doing this will do one thing. Wealthy people are going to be like, okay, he's just published a list of my home address accusing me of stealing from the people. Got to get out while you still can. And then the property values collapse, and then I guarantee you his buddies are going to buy him up.
I like the one that shows like groups of white people jogging and it says when you know your property value is about to skyrocket.
Or like a Church's Chicken is getting built and you're like, well, there goes the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, look, just like you guys are saying, that there's no legitimate reason to post people's, the home addresses. This is, I think, the second time he's done this too. There was another issue where he posted someone's address that he considered too wealthy or what have you. But look, this is going to have
Griffith.
Yeah. He stood in front of his house.
Yeah, this is going to have the effect of actually making people say, I can't live here anymore.
Yes, intimidation.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Can we just go back in time to when Donald Trump helped revitalize New York? And the way he did it was he built luxury properties and convinced wealthy people that it was worth coming back. Then they came back, and simultaneously Giuliani was implementing broken windows policing. So then you start going heavy after criminals. Trump then comes in and builds luxury properties and tells people this is upper class, this is high society. Wealthy people start moving in, paying big taxes. The city uses big taxes for new programs, puts a stop on the crime, crushes it. New York is back, baby. Mamdani's doing the inverse. They want to abolish police and prisons. They want to end stop and frisk. They're letting criminals go. He wants to close down Rikers, and they've been working on releasing criminals from there, and they're trying to destroy the wealthy properties. They are literally trying to burn the city to the ground, and I'll tell you why. Not just the one theory, the RoboCop villains, because they want to destroy the United States, and New York City is the financial center. So what they end up doing is crushing the financial center of the West. I think it's all intentional. They know it's not going to help anybody. It's going to hurt everybody.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's no legitimate reason. It's all about intimidation. They have absolutely no desire to support the Constitution. They don't believe in property rights. They think that everybody that has any sort of asset or whatever, they gain that by taking advantage of someone
If Trump had balls, he'd have done something. If the Republicans had balls, they'd do something. But it feels like we're watching the bus driving full speed towards the cliff, and everybody's like, well, don't look at me. I'm not a bus driver. Trump sitting there and being like, look, my hands are tied. I can't take control of the bus. I'm forbidden from doing it. You're like, okay, look, I get it. I'm not trying to rag on the president. I'm just saying at a certain point, like this Fauci story, we can't put Fauci in jail despite knowing that he committed atrocities. I mean, these are atrocities, what he did. The amount of people who died because of Fauci, it's now basically confirmed. He was lying endlessly about all this, gloating in this diary that he was writing, bragging about what he was doing. And they can't do anything about it. Okay. I mean, if you live in that world where an evil guy literally can do evil and say, but I've used your laws to make sure you can't stop me, and you're like, oh, drat, he won. It's like, okay, all right, I guess.
I mean, a guy keeping a diary in general is already pretty suspect.
At least call it a journal.
Yeah. It's different.
He calls it a diary.
And everything from here on out is probably...
Can we just remember that time Cuomo pretended he was in quarantine when he wasn't? And these people,
Oh, and
these people are
yeah,
genuinely
and they
evil
caught him
people.
like outside jogging or something.
He was riding him.
No, he was not. He was at a new construct property that he owned in I think it was in Long Island, and a guy who was riding a fat tire bike rode by and saw him, and said, "Weren't you supposed to be in quarantine?" And then Cuomo started yelling at him like, "Who the F are you? What are you doing?" Then Cuomo went on his radio show and complained about it, and then everyone was like, "How were you outside?" And then he was like, "Oops." And then he still went on CNN and said, "Look at me coming out of quarantine." And there are people who live in that reality. Yeah. And they vote.
Well, it doesn't matter that none of it makes any sense. It doesn't matter that he's lying because he's not trying to convince the people that already know he lied. He's trying to convince the people that don't know that he got caught at another building. That's what the internet
and you know what it is? He came out and did his apology tour, and the right forgave him. I'm not suggesting they all love him. I'm saying it's just people forgot. I just want to stress, when we played that video on Friday with Jason Ellis showing the forklift lifting up the razor wire so that Biden could commit a seditious conspiracy against this country and allow people to break our laws. I just want to stress this. I hear this quite a bit where people are like, "You really think a civil war is possible?" And I just want to stress, in 2021, Joe Biden, his administration, used a forklift to break the barriers of the United States so that people could commit crimes in the United States. This is definitive. It's a fact. Okay? Entering the country is a crime. And Biden aided and abetted millions. It's on video. He even challenged the Supreme Court. Texas sent out their armed state guard to defy the federal government, and there were standoffs between the federal government law enforcement and Texas State Guard. Ultimately, Texas State Guard backed down, and even CBP agents facilitated this crime against the United States, and nothing was done about it. And people, I saw I think it was Sean Strickland said voting for Trump was one of the biggest regrets of my life. And I'm like, oh yeah, because when Joe Biden broke the barrier, Arizona put up double layered shipping containers to block the barrier because of the influx of illegal immigration, and the Biden admin had it removed. They were betraying the American people. They were breaking the law, engaging in conspiracies to do so, and everyone forgot. And now, because Trump has some bad things, don't get me wrong, they're like, "I can't believe I voted for Trump." Are you kidding me? You're going to vote for Kamala so that she could literally commit crimes and atrocities against the American people? And Fauci's admitting in these documents that he knew the whole time this was not from the wet market. And people are like, I regret voting for Trump. No, you don't.
No, the whole I regret voting for Trump is they're just mad that they're not getting whatever their pet project was.
It's a combination of recency bias and that. Like when we were talking about it on Thursday, I was like, I thought maybe we'd get some tax cuts and maybe we'd get some border security, and that's about as much as I expect from any politician.
Don't understand the border security is like, with Biden, it could not have been worse. With Trump, it could not be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's existential, right? Like, if you continue to allow unlimited people to come into the country and then whether it be for the census or whether they be getting onto some kind of social program, all of that stuff will destroy the United States. And granted, like, I'm one of the people that thinks that there haven't been enough deportations, although I do think that the administration's numbers are probably right around the truth when you figure in actual self-deportations and stuff. I probably think it's probably around 3 million or so. There's 330 Haitians that just today are now ineligible for the temporary protected status or whatever. So hopefully they'll be going back to Haiti and stuff. But it just doesn't, like, you can't have the policies that the Biden administration had and remain a country. A nation is its people.
Let's just show people convincing. Every single day this video. It's a video of a forklift raising up concertina wire to allow people to illegally enter the country.
America is not made of magic dirt. It doesn't change the people that are coming here. And if you bring enough people from a society that is dysfunctional into your society becomes dysfunctional. And it doesn't take a majority. Like, if you bring in 20, like, so say the U.S. is 330 million or so. If you bring in 70, 60 million people from a society that is incompatible with our society, that's enough to totally ruin your society. Because people talk about high trust societies. But a high trust society is a high trust society because you can trust most people. If you get to the point where everybody gets screwed somehow by someone that's come from a different society that doesn't look at doesn't look at society the same way, then you're going to have everybody stop trusting you.
And I really liked Rubio. He gave a talk where he's like, I'm not anti-rain, I'm anti-flood. Where like you can have a healthy amount of immigration, but this rapid flash increase, the country just can't handle.
That's exactly why I think we should end all immigration for all but like 01 visas or whatever, like for like a decade.
Let's jump to this next story, guys, on the Post Millennial. Fauci claimed he had nothing to do with school closures. Diary shows he was proud to get California and New York to send kids home. Trump wants to open schools at all costs. Clearly does not care about the safety of children. But I actually think it's much, much worse than just this story. Senator Rand Paul posted this. January 26, 2020, Fauci writes in his diary, "Now we know the market was not the source, it was the amplifier." That is January of 2020. The wet market was already off the table in his own private notes.
And that's
in January of 2020.
We knew about it.
In January of 2020, I made the first video for my channel on COVID, talking about this mysterious illness in China, and people were collapsing in the street.
Yep.
YouTube demonetized the video and emailed me explicitly saying, you may not make videos about this. If you do, we will turn off your monetization.
Like that's in January.
That was in January. This was before the lockdowns, which were in March, before the general public knew anything about COVID. Fauci already knew the wet market was not the source, and he lied about all of it. Why? Likely because COVID was the product of Fauci's work, because he had been providing funding for gain-of-function research that ultimately ended up at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, where they created COVID and it massacred people. And Fauci knows this. Joe Biden, the reason, what was it, his 11-year pardon? I think it was like 11 years, Fauci's pardon.
Yeah, I thought that it was indefinite, but anyways.
It was going back like 11 years, I think. Something like that. Anything he may have done, he cannot be charged for. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just say if the Trump administration does not even try, then you have no country. I think you should challenge the idea that you can pre-pardon someone for a decade of crimes.
Then the public needs to be more on board with this, because like we were talking about the other week, it's like there is a recency bias, and it feels like a lot of people have forgot or just decided that they wanted to move on with their lives. So when we were talking about this on Thursday of last week, we were talking about Rand Paul still being all up in this business, and it just feels like for the general public, there isn't a lot of interest in going back to this right now, even though what I see just the other day, from what Destiny said, this is the wet market that caused this.
He's a retard.
Well, there you have it. But the point is like there's no pressure point here because the general public doesn't seem to care.
Well, not only that, like the general public is still so sequestered into their team idea, right? Like there are people on the left that will never accept.
What did Jason Ellis say when we showed him the video of the concertina wire?
He couldn't believe it.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I don't believe
I showed the video and he was like, F off.
There were
and
people,
I was like, yes. And he's like, you're saying the president had that forklift. I don't believe it. So we had to pull up the articles proving it, and he could not believe it. Now, I'm not saying this to be disrespectful. Jason Ellis is a regular dude. He skateboards. He does comedy. He doesn't live in the political world. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine in New York back in like 2019 where he was like, he was a liberal comedian guy with millions of followers, and he was like, so you're like pro-life or something? And I was like, no, I'm pro-choice. And he was like, but people are saying like you're pro-life because like the Democrats are trying to pass this abortion protection. And I said, no, the Democrats are trying to pass a bill that would allow abortion to the point of birth, citing mental health issues. And he goes, that's not true. And I said, okay. And I pulled up the actual bill, and I said, read passage 13. And he reads, and he goes, what? This is fake. And I was like, look at the URL. It's house.gov. It's senate.gov, bro. And he goes, I can't believe this. I don't believe it. And I'm like, dude, why do you think I'm making this up? But they live in Wally World. They live in CNN land. Everything is fake, and they're just never going to get out of it.
And it's also that they're so entrenched. Like I made a remark about Fauci. I mean, on X, I made a remark about Fauci should be tried. Trump should ignore the pardon and snatch him up. And some guy goes, well, yeah, and Trump too. Like immediately right to Trump too, as if the crimes that Fauci has been accused of that seem to be, very, very, like there seems to be a lot of evidence. the millions of people that died because of COVID, like that died because of COVID, and then the other stuff surrounding COVID, like that's equal to like Donald Trump. So even if you look at the most terrible way to cast Donald Trump, save for like the crazy people that are like, oh, you know, he was doing stuff with Epstein, blah blah blah, like all the corruption stuff, the money that he's made, the meme coin schemes, those kind of things that are you know generally universally looked down on. Even if you look at all that stuff, the Jeannie Carroll stuff, all of it doesn't even come close to the kind of global effect that Fauci had. And some guys just like, oh, but what about Trump? Like, are you serious? That's like, you know.
Was that guy Brian Shapiro?
No, I actually I blocked Brian Shapiro because he called me. So we're back to not being friends. No, but
we're back to not being friends.
That's like being like, oh, that guy robbed a bank. Well, or that, you know, we have a problem with Hitler, and it's like, well, what about the guy that robbed a bank? Like, are you serious? It doesn't even come close to the same kind of magnitude. But you got to talk about the other team because people are so entrenched.
So it was 11 years. I looked it up.
Yeah.
What? You know, yeah.
11-year pardons. And Hunter, too, right?
I don't know about his, but let me look.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
But even, you know, it's frustrating because not only are we kind of in agreement around here that Trump's not going to do anything about Fauci. No matter what comes out, he's probably not going to serve a day in jail. And even though they can't do anything about that, people would still say that Trump was the worst president ever if he did say, you know what, we can't let this stand. This guy had such a massive effect on the whole planet. Every person on Earth was touched by that pandemic. You know?
I don't know. I'm very, very tired of the left-right paradigm for everything. And maybe part of that's just because of where we work and stuff like that. But I'm sick of the world being filtered through the lens of left-wing versus right-wing politics.
But left-wing and right-wing doesn't mean anything.
Okay, I'm using the generic idea.
Yeah, but you're saying, like, we're complaining about people who don't pay attention to the news.
What do you mean?
The left just means you live in fantasy land, and the right just means you don't.
Yeah, I mean, but in general,
like Jimmy Dore is called right wing, even though he's a socialist. Mm-hmm. Why? Because, well, he believes a lot of he's dancing in the conspiracy slop right now, but he's outside the mainstream narrative. Mm-hmm. So if you are in CNN land, you're left wing. Even if you're a conservative, if you're Lincoln Project, you're not conservative anymore. So again, when we're talking about left right paradigm these days, we're basically just saying, are you in the cult or are you not in the cult?
Yeah, it's incredibly frustrating too, because again, it does seem like nothing is actually going to be done about this, and you've got just a cornucopia of evidence that this is something that Fauci knew about, something that Fauci had a hand in, and the Biden administration. You know, who we were talking about, Joe Biden literally can't remember anything, right? Like the first story about how he was talking to his biographer and was basically incriminating himself and all sorts of things because the Biden administration gave him a pardon for 11 years back because they're just as culpable. They knew too.
At this point, I just believe all conspiracies, every single one. Every single one. You know, the earth is flat and it's hollow. It's a donut.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yep. And it's Israel who's keeping that knowledge away from us because, you know, and...
birds aren't real?
Oh, no, of course not. There's no such thing as a bird. Yeah, never existed. Neither are
government
clouds.
Drone, you mean?
Yeah.
Yep, nope.
When I say left-right paradigm, I guess coming from my side of what we talk about over on PCC, it's just a little bit different. Like, there were people who were telling me for weeks that the Odyssey was going to bomb. And this is filtered through the left-right paradigm because it was conservatives versus liberals versus normies talking about it. I said, it's a Christopher Nolan movie. It's not going to bomb. I don't know if it's going to make $1 billion. Now I know that it's going to make well over that. But in general, I'm like, I can look at the objective facts of this, but it was being filtered through the lens of this movie is going to be a degradation of Western society and it's destroying our stories and it's going to create a race war. And all of this stuff. Now, this isn't being filtered through the commentators or anything like that, but people on X, like that is the paradigm that everybody looks at it through. It's not looked at through a news paradigm. It's looking through an ideological paradigm where their view of the world world is very, very different from the person who's on the other side of the aisle, who's somebody who's just either, if they're not left wing, they're just like a regular person, and that's the people who went and saw the movie. I said it's not an indictment of the left's ability to make movies. It's the indictment on Nolan's ability to get normies to come out to the theater, and those are the people that I miss interacting with, the people that aren't thinking about the parody.
I think like The Odyssey does attack the story, but it's a Christopher Nolan normie film. It's going to attract regular normie people. I think the problem the right had is my reaction to like the weird race and like gender swap stuff, or like Sinan as a character being added despite not being in The Odyssey. I'm just like, I'm glad you made your movie. Have fun. Go see it. I'm not going to go see it. I don't care. I'm not going to complain about it. It's just not a movie for me.
That was, mine was the opposite, but I am going to go see it because it's part of my job to go.
I'm going to go see Spider-Man.
I'm going to go see Spider-Man as well. Right. I'm very excited to go see Spider-Man.
Did you see that Ryan Reynolds was wearing gray jeans?
I saw he was wearing a gray Deadpool outfit.
It was made of denim.
Oh, was it?
So they're calling him
Canadian tuxedo.
Now they're all mad at. Now they're all pretending like nobody likes Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool anymore. Is like some.
Who said that?
Yeah, it was all over X the other day, like pretending
amazing.
like.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, okay, so the weird thing is everybody's mad that Sean Levy is going to be directing the Ghost Rider movie with Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
I was like, we have to pretend like do we need some art house dork to direct this movie? No, you want the guy who made Deadpool and Wolverine, and he did Free Guy. We liked Free Guy when we went and saw it back in the day. He also did the masterpiece Big Fat Liar with Frankie Muniz and Amanda Bynes back in the day. Like those, like I was like, who do you need? You don't need some dorky A24 director to make a Ghost Rider movie. You want the big budget guy to make the Ghost Rider.
The problem with Ghost Rider is that like the original story is he makes a deal with the devil. But then the Marvel universe is like, but how do you have a devil? So like, it's actually Mephisto, and then he becomes like, what is it, Cosmic Ghost Rider?
I'm surprised they didn't do the Robbie Reyes version that they did in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I thought they were going to do, but I guess Ryan Gosling came to them and said, "I want to make this movie." Finally wants to, he's going to make a ton of money.
Yeah, the problem with Ghost Rider is the penance stare just doesn't work on anybody anymore.
The what?
The penance stare.
Oh, yeah.
Ghost Rider's power is to like look in your eyes, and then because of the sins you've committed, your soul burns from the inside out. But now they're just like they're doing the Worf. You know what the Worf effect is?
No.
So in Star Trek: The Next Generation, to prove that a bad guy was powerful, they would always have Worf, who's this big, tall Klingon, walk up and then get tossed aside like a rag doll. So the Worf effect is a reference to movies being like, we need to establish the villain's powerful, so have the strong guy instantly lose. So like when Thor in the trailer for Doomsday swings the Stormbreaker at Doom and he blocks with 2 fingers, that's the Worf effect. So
it's the opposite of what they did in the Infinity War trailer, where Thanos tries to hit Steve Rogers with the gauntlet, and Steve Rogers has to use literally all his power to keep the gauntlet from basically going through his face. Yeah. By the way, not a Star Trek fan, as everybody knows, but I did start Andromeda, which is basically an unofficial Star Trek show, and I am happy to say that maybe it's because of the lack of baggage that comes from watching something that just isn't Star Trek. I actually found the first couple of episodes quite enjoyable.
You're saying you haven't watched The Next Generation because people peer pressure you?
I won't watch it because people peer pressure me.
Ah.
That's just like the second you tell me I have to watch it, I'm like, no, now I'm just going to not watch it even harder.
You didn't realize you're so weak-willed,
No.
Decide for yourself.
I am strong-willed in my pushback of everybody telling me I have to watch something.
You know what's interesting too is it's really Star Trek is a really good example because when we're talking about like the left does like to use Star Trek to recruit people. Not a joke. During Occupy Wall Street, they would be like, "You ever see Star Trek: The Next Generation?" And people would be like, "Oh yeah, of course. That's what we're trying to build. That's communism." And then anyone who's an actual fan goes, "No, it isn't. They owned private property. Picard owned a vineyard. You liar." But now with these grocery stores, you've also got Elon Musk saying by 2036 money will be irrelevant because AI and machine and automation will be producing so much you won't actually need any money. But that's not true because private property will still exist. Someone will still want to live in a skyscraper on the river or on the shore. And there needs to be a way to exchange value. Unless, of course, what Elon is saying is there will be the haves and the have-nots. And the haves will want for nothing. And the have-nots will get free food, but nothing else.
I mean, the scary thing is like with UBI, who decides how much you get?
The government.
Yeah. Based on what?
You know what I think is going to happen? We're going to go through, like, I should say this. One of the possible outcomes is there's going to be an extinction event. But it's not going to be caused by a meteor strike or warfare or disease. It's going to be caused by abundance. if we get to the point where Optimus bots can build more of themselves,
Yeah.
and then mass produce food, and when they break down, fix themselves, and they just build everything, they handle all the mining, all the manufacturing, and humans don't. There's going to be disciplined humans who stay fit and work out, and then there's going to be humans who gorge themselves and do nothing and then just die. And there will be an extinction level event where tens of millions of humans die off over a couple generations, don't have kids, and then just have heart attacks.
There's already people doing that for TikTok clout.
Well, I mean, this is my point. What I'm describing actually is already happening. So I'm saying jump us ahead 10 years, and you've got food being almost entirely free, which I got to be honest, it's very close to being free as it is. You want free food, go live in Seattle. They got a food bank every day, and there are food banks that just have big shelves of free food.
Yeah.
You don't got to spend a dime.
They just came out with Ozempic, though. So maybe that's...
Yeah, so people will gorge themselves.
Yeah, they're still going to die. I mean, let's just be honest. You know, you've seen those mesothelioma commercials? We're going to have those for Ozempic, I would imagine. Maybe not Ozempic specifically, it's a brand, but GLP-1. It's going to be like, were you prescribed GLP-1 between the years of 2025 and 2028? If so, you may be eligible for a large compensation.
I mean, we're still going to find out one day that these things are actually nuking our brain.
You know what I'm hoping
That's for
happens?
sure.
Yeah. I'm hoping that what really happens is that all the people who got GLP-1, because there's a bunch of different brands, mind you, eventually just have parasitic worms burst from their bodies, and like on live TV. Have you guys seen that? It was like a Black Mirror or something?
No.
There's a worm you can get that like latches onto you and sucks out your fat, and you instantly lose all your weight. So there's like a fat guy. I think it was a Black Mirror. There's like a fat. The chat can tell me what it is. A fat guy's like, no, I don't want to get it. I don't want to get it. And then finally they convince him to get it, and they're going to do it on TV. But then right at this moment, there's like an eclipse, which causes all of the eggs that were laid in people's bodies they didn't know about to hatch.
Ew.
And then like everyone just starts, like the worms are bursting from their bodies.
Gross.
Yeah.
I mean,
What show is that?
come on, chat. I really hope that's not true, and I'm not so black.
Creep show.
Creep show.
Tales from the Dark Side. Well, I'll just look it up.
People are just guessing. I'm not so black-pilled that I expect that to happen. I do think that there's a lot of really, really cool things that are going to happen in the next 10 years or so when it comes to medical.
Yeah, it was Creep Show.
Stuff.
Skin crawlers.
So
Do you believe that the what Elon Musk says when he says that you're not going to need money by 2036? Do you think that's a very, very optimistic?
So what he's saying is money's going to be irrelevant. People will have money, but the lower class people are going to live in pods. They're going to walk to the grocery store, and there's going to be a base level of food that's just free. And you're going to walk up, and there's going to be an Optimus bot, and you're going to be like, give me a cheeseburger. And then it's going to go, and it's going to make it and hand it to you because it's going to cost pennies.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's more on need. I think it'll still exist in some form, but it'll be more of like discretionary.
Yeah, I think that there will still be people that want to do things and want to excel, but I think that the basic needs will be probably met. I mean, right now we make plenty of food to feed the world. It's really a matter of distribution than it is actually not being able to, produce enough food. Something like 30% of the food that the United States produces goes to waste anyways.
That's got to do with legalities, right? They can't give away expired food, even if it would technically still be
And
edible.
transportation costs.
Yeah, it's really about being able to get the food where it's produced to where the people that need the food are.
But there is one thing that I do want to say to Elon. Let me pull up this video real quick. Let me scroll down and find this here video. Then we can talk about what it means to get free food in the world that y'all are going to live in. Here we go. I'm going to play this video for y'alls. You can watch it and tell me if you want to live in the world with the free food.
Very yummy meal.
For those that are just listening, it's a bunch of school lunches. The carrot is magnetic.
Oh my
I just want
god.
to show you what's being served at school today.
This person flips over their meal tray. The food is just stuck. What is that, dude?
Oh man.
Just fat.
Pizza, undercooked pizza. I got to be honest, though. Like, I'm going to pause real quick. Actually, the undercooked pizza, it's bad that it's undercooked, but that's not bad.
No.
If they're actually got real dough and cheese and stuff, that's just undercooked.
I'm not a crinkle cut fry fan specifically, but the cheese fries I'd be okay with.
Check this out.
Not move.
What? Mac and
Our
cheese.
school lunch.
Until they fix this shit.
Look at this. nachos and cheese, and there's there's a film on the cheese, and he's pushing into it, and then he picks his finger up, and there's nothing on his finger.
I was reliably told that Michelle Obama was going to fix this.
This is crazy.
Look at the syrup. There's like snot. What? You don't eat that.
Put it up.
Raw chicken.
I mean, look, you should.
Then I
Is
realized.
the food coming from like
The
big
ice cream is like
corporations that
dough.
are just giving like their lower
These free
tier
school
Look at this
lunches
milk.
are nasty.
What the? Dude, it's not. It's milk, dude. What is that? And kids are drinking that?
Edible. It's not fucking.
Dude, this is weird stuff, man.
Homeschool your kids.
The icing peels off like dough. Look at that. Oh, dude, this is wild. They're telling this is not milk.
A lot of the milk that they're showing is for just frozen. But
Yeah, I understand the frozen stuff, but like, hold on. Where's that one? This right here.
yeah, that ain't.
What is
not
that?
Good.
That's not milk. What is it?
It's strawberry milk.
It's not. It's not milk. It's clearly not milk. I understand it's spoiled, but milk doesn't spoil that way. And then there's this one right here. Look at this.
Yeah.
It says True Moo, but that's not. There's no way that's milk. It says fat-free milk. That is not milk. Milk doesn't spoil like that.
What if it was
Look at
like
that stuff, dude.
frozen and unfrozen and frozen and unfrozen?
Yeah, but it's snotty.
Yeah, I don't.
It was like mucus.
It's not edible.
Homeschool your kids.
I mean, I wonder how much of this is fake too. Like
gotta
someone mixes
say, yeah, this
gelatin
is
into a milk to make it
crazy.
snotty or something.
Homeschool
But even
your
then, it looked
kids.
somewhat translucent, like it was not cream.
I think getting back to the AI thing and money, I think one of the issues is like the crisis of meaning, though. Like if folks don't have to work at all.
Well, the point is, if you don't work, this is the food you get. That's the point. When the robots are doing everything, they'll be like, oh, yeah, you can have your weird spoiled schlop. It's free. That's what you get when you want free food. You want government living? Man, live under Mamdani. This is the kind of food they're going to be giving you during at your grocery stores.
Yeah, I mean, people are gonna say, oh, the government's gonna provide everything for you and stuff, and
Or you have fake jobs, like in New Jersey where you can't pump your own gas.
Yeah.
And so they create this job that doesn't necessarily need to exist.
Dude,
Yeah.
this video, this clip from the beginning where the kid's picking up the strawberry milk is like mucus. There's a bunch of videos of them picking up mucus that's not milk. You can't pick up milk like that.
Yeah,
What is
I don't
going
know
on?
what has to happen to milk for it to get that.
That's gack. Remember gack?
Oh yeah, that's like it's like someone said, I don't know. And
Yeah,
you can't do that on television. Just the stuff, just
Nickelodeon gack splat. Here you go. For those that aren't familiar, wait, I got to close this first. Gack was a toy in the 90s from Nickelodeon.
You know that probably was just made of the worst chemicals ever, too. Like, we're going to die because we had that stuff.
Nickelodeon's
Corn syrup.
gack splat.
I mean, cornstarch goes into anything and makes that kind of stuff.
There you go.
Yep.
Gack.
Oh, it just took me back in time.
Which I mean, that was just a an evolution of the green slime that they made.
Yeah.
Getting
Play-Doh.
slimed.
Yeah, and you can't do that on television.
Yeah.
If you said I don't know, they.
So this is the world that the left wants for you. You'll live in the pod and you'll eat the bugs.
Yeah, and now look, there are plenty of people out there that'll be like, I'd be fine. I would choose that over having to go to work for some terrible boss.
You're gonna go to the pod facility, and you're gonna they're gonna open up the pod and you're gonna lay down. It's gonna be the most comfortable thing you've ever. You're gonna wow, this is really nice. And they're gonna be like, oh, here's what we do: the tube goes down your throat, the Neuralink band goes on your head, and then you enter any reality that you want, and you never have to leave. And they're all going to say yes, and they're gonna pump that gunk into your belly to keep you alive.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it won't matter to you because you won't experience it.
Yeah.
You'll be fighting dragons or whatever. You'll be Harry Potter.
You'll never be hungry again because your
You'll be fighting Voldemort on loop.
stomach will be full of that stuff.
Of gack.
I genuinely wonder though what'll happen to the human brain if they are given a paradise. Like in the Matrix, they said the first Matrix was a paradise, but the human mind rejected it because it needed conflict.
There's a Dostoevsky quote that pretty much says, like, you can have that, but you'll still need purpose. like I can't remember the quote exactly.
I mean, like,
It's
what
like-
would
it's
what would
the
life
same-
be like if you won at everything you were trying to do? Would you be happy?
No.
But it's the same argument that people have whenever a celebrity dies or something bad happens and they complain. They're like, what are they complaining about? They've got money.
Right. They say she's so lucky. She's a star.
They've got they've got money, they've got fame. It's like, well, yeah, but why do you think so many rich people end up with drug problems, right? Because they find a way to need more conflict in their lives. You take care of one need and another problem arises.
And you need constraints. Like that's what makes life so fun is it's limited and finite. And if you're just able to keep on respawning in your brain.
I mean,
That's why I can't stand communists, because they think the grass is greener everywhere. And then they're confused when, like, some dude wins the lottery and then just hates his life.
yeah, I mean, look, communists think that the state of, they've said all the time, the state of nature, you're just chilling and you can go out and get, berries or whatever, and it's super. It's just, before capitalism, life was so blah blah blah, and it's like existence itself is struggle. Like you are struggling against nature, which wants to kill you. All the animal, like any kind of predators want to kill you.
The laws of physics are trying to strip the particles from your body
All the time.
and spread them across the universe.
And you tell me, use the last of your man-made possessions, sell them, buy a tent.
Yeah.
And now go out into the woods and survive on your own.
I mean, just you can watch these YouTube videos of people that are like, oh, I'm going to sell everything and I'm going to go out and I'm going to build a homestead. And look how easy that is. It is non-stop work. They work from when they get up until they go to bed, and then they hope that a bear doesn't come and steal their food and stuff. It's just they're incredibly naive.
There's also it's not just the have-nots in society. It's also like there is I've seen a resurgence on my X timeline of people who work in corporate America. So you might think they're working maybe they work like a 12-hour a day shift at some high finance company or something like that, or maybe they're just an 8-hour a day. They punch in at 9, they leave at 5, and they're like, I have to spend Sunday like taxing myself and getting ready to go in on Monday because it's not me. It's like they literally are creating more conflict there because you will adapt to the situation you're in and find a way to make it worse.
Yeah, I forget where it was. I saw this great quote about the way that socialists view the world, and like I said, it's like they say that our society is so terrible and capitalism is so oppressive, but they're literally comparing it to like heaven or like an imaginary society that doesn't and has never existed.
So here's
I should get to make music
Dostoevsky quote. It's shower upon him every earthly blessing, give him economic prosperity such that he should have nothing else to do but sleep, eat cakes, and busy himself with the continuation of his species. And even then, out of sheer ingratitude, sheer spite, man would play some nasty trick. So it's kind of like, even if you have everything, you still need to like.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are people that even if their lives were perfect, they would do something destructive to throw some kind of chaos into their lives, and they would just as likely do those same things to other people around them, throw chaos into their life somehow.
They're also imagining a world where they get to do whatever they want every day, and they imagine that whatever that is like their hobbies. But it's like, how many old people retire and they immediately go get a job because they need something, they need structure, they need something they have to accomplish every day, right?
And their relationships too. I mean, the amount of small business owners we chat with, they're retiring and they're like, part of the reason I've been married for 40 years, I work 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Like if you're just staring at each other all day long, you're going to go insane.
You're like, oh God, I have to look at you again.
I don't think so. I think if I wasn't working full time, me and my wife would be going like skiing and then rock climbing and then.
But for how many years in a row? You don't think you'd forever?
Yeah. If
you do it.
Yeah. Easy. Some people are lucky, I guess.
Can I ask you a question? So basically, can you give people the description of your business again?
Yeah. So we focus when owners want to retire and their kids don't want to take over the business. Small business owners.
It's so fun. Like literally, this is one of those stories that used to be quintessential to like television and movies, which is like the kid who doesn't want to continue in the family business. And I was like, nobody does that anymore because I feel like if I wish my dad had owned a business that would have like chose my path for me in a way. Like,
this is what we've been talking about with. Like in Japan, we've talked quite a bit about Niigata, for instance, where all the young people are moving to Tokyo because they want to be around each other. And then what's happening is in all of these surrounding rural and suburban and smaller town areas, the population is hollowing out. So the community is very small, so they're all moving to dense urban centers, hyper-centralizing. That means all the businesses and all the family properties and everything they own is being abandoned.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that in the United States.
And for us, it's a national security issue because all of the manufacturing, I mean, a lot of the times the owners are actually pushing their kids away. Growing up, they would say flee for the fences because NAFTA and whatnot had just stripped any profit out of running those businesses. Mm-hmm. And so the risk to the country is like, hey, we need this manufacturing supply chain to continue on. And then from a job creation point of view, I think over the last 25 years, small businesses created 2 out of every 3 jobs. Yeah. It's actually not the Metas and the Amazons of the world. It's all of these small electrical contractors and manufacturing plants throughout the country. So it's pretty important to make sure that they continue on. And you don't want to do it in a way where it's all just rolled up by Wall Street, because then it's not creating local wealth or keeping the jobs in the community.
Feels like that's what, we were explaining this on the show like a couple of weeks ago. I said, it doesn't feel like the American dream anymore is to start a business and pass it on to your kids. Now it feels like it's start a business and hope for a private equity firm to come up and buy it and make it worse.
Yeah, I mean, that may be true for younger folks. A lot of the owners that we partner with, I mean, we can't pay private equity prices. So they take a discount to partner with us because they want their number 2 to take it over, or they want the business to still be the sponsor of the Little League or the Veterans Day Parade. So I think there's a lot of kind of American economic life that's still very good and positive. It's just not the stuff that's necessarily talked about on the news.
What type of businesses go through this process with you?
We focus on manufacturing and then the trades. So what we call critical economy businesses. So actually tomorrow I'm going up to middle of Pennsylvania, and we're partnering with this owner who's retiring. We're backing his number 2, and it's a peanut processor. It's the number 1 employer in town. So we're buying that from him, and then partnering with Chris, who's the operator.
Well, one of the things that the socialists don't realize is when they rail against the wealthy, they're railing against the guy that owns the peanut farm.
Totally. And that's the guy who gets penalized by this grocery store nonsense.
Yeah. To your point, the fact that at some point in recent history, small business employed 2 out of 3 people. I imagine those numbers are similar still. I mean, obviously Walmart and Amazon and there are some big companies that do have a lot of employees, but still you've got most people working for companies or businesses that are in their small town. And the socialists, they love to go ahead and say, it's a class war, right? The people that we're after the million, they say billionaires now, but they really mean anyone that has more than them. And they would go after the guy that owns, the car dealership in your town. He's worth over $1 million, probably well over $1 million, because he's got a loan out on every single car on his lot, and he owns the building or whatever. But it's that guy employs 40 or 50 people. And if you put him out, you put all those people out of work. And those people are the working class that these socialists swear up and down that they're there for. If you go after the grocery store owner or you're going to put 50, 70 people out of work because they're the ones that are stocking the shelves. They're ringing people out. They're bagging the groceries. They're doing all the things that are necessary. You put all these people out of work because you wanted to go ahead and stick it to the man and go after the millionaires, and because they had unfairly stolen the profit that the workers actually earned. It's this kind of one-dimensional thinking, this misunderstanding of how society works. It destroys not just whole countries, but if you have bad people in your local government, it destroys cities.
Totally. And it's the coolest stat is it's the number 1 trusted institution in the U.S. Every single year Gallup has done their poll, small business is number 1. And so if you start to destroy those, you just destroy social cohesion, whatever we have left of it.
All these people that are swearing up and down that they want to help the working class, honestly, the best way they could help the working class is to get rid of a lot of the regulations and red tape that small businesses in their municipalities have to jump through to expand their business, start their business, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, yeah. A buddy of mine was trying to open a foundry in South Carolina, and he was actually, before Lindsey Graham passed, was working with him on trying to identify all the red tape. And in order to open it, they had to do a 2-year study on some spotted toad and the impact of the foundry on, it's insane.
It's ridiculous, and that's at the federal level too, right? Yeah, because of the EPA stuff.
Yeah.
The best thing that could happen to America is the abolition of the EPA. Just get rid of it. It is such a hindrance on any kind of progress. I know people that are going to make us think about that because God forbid we get rid of something that protects, but it doesn't end up protecting things, and
it protects the big companies.
Sure,
at
yeah.
the expense of the small ones.
Yeah.
In those businesses that you're talking about, it's kind of like what we were talking about last week about the idea of like the American spirit. And the American spirit is tied to, it's creating something for yourself. It's building a company, finding something that society needs and offering it to other people and taking risks to do it.
Yep.
And those companies are the ones that kind of build the back. When people think of America, I guess you do think of a lot of like cultural exports with big companies like an Amazon or a Google or all of these companies that have been founded here in the U.S. But that's not what keeps America America.
To that point, right? So I saw something that said that Elon Musk has lost like 30% of his wealth because the Tesla stock has gone down and stuff. All these people that were swearing up and down that it was an abomination and it was abhorrent that we had a trillionaire, blah, 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 blah. And they would have taxed Elon Musk, half of his property or whatever because of, the money they believe that he has in his bank account because he's a trillionaire and they're so offended. None of them would want to share in that kind of loss.
No.
Losing that much
pain
money
to get it.
Yeah. So it's just so incredibly ignorant and so, again, motivated by envy, motivated by just, you have too much and I don't have enough. And by I don't have enough, what they mean is I don't have the ability to eat every single meal from DoorDash.
The funny thing is like, okay, 25 to 30 years of skating, which means I go out and you go do street skating tricks on various properties. And one thing that I've always pointed out to people over the years said, where you go on the weekends where there's people in the office all the time? It's not at the big corporations where there's a security guard in this massive high rise there to kick you out. It's the people in that run plumbing businesses. It's the people that run all of these small trades. They're there on the weekends. They're always working, or they maybe they take Sunday off, and do hang out with their family, but they're there on Saturday.
Yeah,
and that type of grind, that type of work ethic is something that should be celebrated.
Totally. And I think 2/3 of the founding fathers came over to create small businesses, and they own small businesses. Either they themselves created it, or like John Adams, like it gets passed on. So it's in the country's DNA. And I think attacking them, and not even deliberately attacking them, but doing stuff that ultimately hurts them is really foolish.
You mentioned in the country's DNA, and that's a big part of the reason why I'm so against all this mass immigration, because the people make the country, right? Yeah. The population that you have, they make your country what it is. And if you have people that are industrious and looking to and have a can-do attitude, and this is something we talked about a little bit lately, the people that come to America historically up until about 1965 or so, they were people that believed that they were happening to the world. Yeah. Right? They were going to go and do something, and they were going to make their lives. Then the people that have come since the 60s and stuff, it's been fewer and fewer and fewer of those people and more people that are looking for the United States to do something for them. And if you come to the United States thinking, United States, I want you to help me. I want you to give me a handout, to provide for me. You're going to end up changing the population, and you're going to make the United States a less functional society and less prosperous society.
Let's jump to the story from the Wall Street Journal. It's World War III, boys. The Ukrainians hit Iranian supply lines to Russia and the Caspian, and now speculation is emerging that the two wars are about to become one because Tehran is threatening retaliation on Ukraine for their strikes on their supply lines. And, of course, we're at war with Iran and supplying Ukraine. So this is where I guess we get World War III?
I mean, World War III, look, historically, how world wars have started, it's been expansion of existing wars. So look, I mean, it's possible.
You get China in the mix, and we're there.
I mean,
and they're definitely behind Iran.
Well, the Iran war cutting off the Strait of Hormuz has isolated them from their oil imports, so they're down 44% since the start of the war, so they're pissed off.
And I saw they're behind a lot of the targeting to the CIA bases and some of our other
and likely flying weapon components into Iran. So, World War III.
Yeah. Great news.
I mean, how old are you?
I'm 31.
None of us are in line for draft, so what do I care? It's Gen Z. Out the door, boys.
Pack
it up, pack it in.
If it only if it happened, only if it's over fairly quickly. I got a boy that I don't want being drafted.
But it's funny because a bunch of people are asking why Laura Loomer has all of a sudden flipped on Ukraine and why she's so supportive of Zelensky, who, by the way, Zelensky is in D.C. right now. So he's just on a street. And but people are like, what happened that Laura Loomer was calling Zelensky a Nazi? And then all of a sudden she's just like, I was wrong and I'm behind Ukraine at this point. I think the issue is as these wars merge, Trump is going to be between a rock and a hard place. He's going to be forced to support Ukraine because Ukraine is now fighting Iran, who is supplying Russia, who is fighting Ukraine, and the U.S. is going to be involved in a major conflict. And if you're behind Trump, you are going to have to get behind everything involved in this war.
Ugh.
Wait, so does that mean I have to put a Ukraine flag in my bio?
Well, you know, it's really funny because in 2024, I posted, let me pull up this tweet actually from 2024. I posted my unwavering support for Ukraine in 2024. Nobody cared. I didn't get any, let me see what did I post? It's here somewhere. I said, upon reflection, I now understand that Ukraine is our greatest ally. As the breadbasket of Europe and peace-loving people, we cannot allow the fascist Russians to continue their crimes against humanity. We must redouble our efforts and provide an additional $200 billion at once. The point was they're about to vote on this $200 billion pay package. And so I posted that, and they were all like, F you, Tim Pool. So then this weekend I posted, Ukraine has been fighting for their very existence against an evil dictator. I see now the importance of the Ukrainian victory against Russia. I hope Trump and the people of the United States will lend their support. And all of a sudden, a wave of the corporate press was like, Tim Pool flips, now supports Ukraine. And I was like, well, technically I flipped in 2024.
Yeah, so you didn't even flip. That's
So I'm on both sides of the issue.
Can't
but
be right.
I will just say, at this point, with like the Ukraine conflict has not been a big component of American politics in a couple of years. I'm fairly ambivalent. I know that if we get involved in, if this does bubble up, the only thing you can really do is hope that, is advocate for resolution, but stand with the United States despite not liking how it's playing out. But it is funny how, what I really think is the media latched onto this narrative, not because they genuinely believe, these journalists genuinely, they don't think that I actually flip-flop. They know that I troll post all the time, but they want it to be true. They want to be able to go and say, see, even MAGA now is supporting Ukraine because it looks like the war is about to get crazy.
I get many messages from people who don't know that you post as such.
Like does Tim really support Ukraine now?
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember the most recent one, but yeah, something as similar. And usually I don't even see the post, so I'm like, he's probably joking, and then I don't really look any further.
I posted also like a day later because I saw the reaction. I'm getting notifications being like ABC News wrote it up and like Axios. So I then tweeted, Ukraine and Israel have done nothing wrong and we must lend our complete and total support. I'm like, look, the point is this, guys. Journalists don't actually do any work. I mean, some do. But these people writing this either are intentionally lying or they don't actually do any research. Not a single one of them called me and asked me for comment. They just write what they want the narrative to be. Yeah. And if what I write fits their narrative, they'll roll with it. So again, in 2024, when I said, I see now I was wrong, they ignore it because they don't want that narrative. It's an election year. They want to say Tim Pool is Russian. Then when it's not a presidential election year, and the war is ramping up, and I tweet basically the same thing, they go, see, even Tim Pool now supports Ukraine.
It also doesn't matter because they could just post the same headline and then in the article in the last paragraph say, it's likely that he was being sarcastic as he often does this on the internet, but then nobody reads that far in the article anyways.
No, it's headlines, just headlines.
But if this goes World War III and it's looking like the wars are going to, I mean, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that they've converged, right? That Ukraine is hitting the Iranians. So what? Trump's going to have no choice. Congress is going to double down. They're going to say, oh, well, we have to support Ukraine now. Trump's going to say, well, look, the Iranians, they're backing Russia, and here we go, baby.
Hope not.
Where did Ukraine hit them?
The Caspian Sea.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Iran was supplying the drones that Russia's been using to kamikaze into Ukraine. But now Iran, of course, is in trouble. And I wonder if that's a component of this war, like the reason why one of the reasons Trump goes after Iran could be because they're supplying weapons to Russia and China.
He just really, really likes Ukraine and had to find a roundabout way to support them.
Yeah.
I don't think he had to find a roundabout way. He's literally supporting them.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying that like it just he couldn't do it beforehand earlier in the term, right? Because it wasn't relevant in 2025.
He'd also railed
Their
against it.
long-range strikes against Russia are pretty impressive. What they've been able to turn around.
Yeah, they're hitting.
Well, I mean, look at this. I mean, the Caspian is not close to Ukraine.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just wild. Basically, you might as well
Did they
say,
cross over Russia to then hit them in the Caspian?
let's just be real. When we say Ukraine, we mean America. It's the United States. You get a guy with Ukrainian accent to push the button, it's still the Americans that are doing it. You know?
It's like a Scooby-Doo thing. Let's just see who you really are, mister.
I mean, look. To be honest with you, like it's not really a surprise that Ukraine's going to do things to try to prevent weapons from getting there, and this is exactly how his past wars have escalated. The World War I believe it was the Germans started attacking U.S. vessels that were going to the UK. And in World War II, like the justification for the attack on Pearl Harbor was the embargo, and these things tend to spiral out of control.
Even like Franz Ferdinand. It's just like kind of a random.
And nobody knew who Franz Ferdinand was. No one cared. But as soon as he got killed, everybody starts picking sides. I mean, it's going to be. It will obviously be that the Europeans will side with Ukraine. So if there is some kind of, expansion of the war, it's going to turn into Europe and the United States versus Russia and China and Iran. I'm not sure who else would align with Iran and China, but you're going to have all of NATO going ham, and it's just bad news, man. Just bad news. These like I said, these things they spiral out of control. So I don't know how you actually get out of it though.
Yeah. I mean, I just figure I don't see this wrapping up anytime soon. With Trump saying like, oh, we've got a new peace deal and all this stuff. It's a yo-yo, and now with strikes in the Caspian, I don't see a path towards de-escalation. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is as bad as it could get. The only thing that I see is likely at this point is that China gets involved. China's cut off from about half of their oil. They're not going to sit back and do nothing. Yeah. And as this conflict grows, this just means China can now count. They can count how many eggs they got left. Guys, the Hormuz is not reopening after this. You're not getting your oil back. So what is China going to do?
I don't think China's going to overtly go kinetic.
And they cease to exist.
Do you think they go after Taiwan?
No.
If China does not get their oil back, they cease to exist.
Well,
Russia's constrained. They're at war. Their supply lines are getting hit. They're already shifting into a wartime economy. They've already shifted into a wartime economy. So China needs to get oil from Russia, but now they're struggling there. I mean, I got to be honest. It looks like pulling Russia, the conflict with Russia, is beneficial to the U.S. in that it forces Russia to divert its energy, so China gets cut off, and then the closing of the Strait of Hormuz has cut off China from its oil. China's been isolated. They have no choice. They can cease to exist, or they can go to war.
I don't
mean literally cease to exist. I'm going to say their economy is going to go down. It's going to get bad. Their standard of living is going to decline, or they can fight.
Well, China has the ability because they've got such a significant control in their population. They can absorb that kind of stuff in a way that the United States can't. They can just say, "This is the way it is." Sorry, people don't have the ability to. They might demonstrate. They might actually start rising up and stuff. But you're going to see, China will put the kibosh on that stuff real quick. They're not going to allow people to be out in the streets. They have shown that they have no compunction with welding people into their homes. And so even if China does start to see some kind of civil unrest, if they have to turn, ration power or whatever, that's an option for them. That's not an option in Western countries.
Ration power?
Yeah, because they
energy.
Yeah.
But what about the LEDs and all the buildings? Everybody tells me that's why China's the greatest place.
LEDs.
All the buildings have big purple LEDs.
LEDs don't use a lot of electricity. They can keep those lights on. Okay. They're very low impact.
The longer this goes on with the Strait, they're building pipelines right now to bypass it, which then ultimately just shoots Iran in the foot because they no longer have a negotiating power.
Yeah, I mean, Iran is not in a good position. Like, no matter, people are saying, oh, there are people out there that are critical of the United States saying, oh, Iran won, and it's like, look, man, Iran is not doing better today than they were 6 months ago. Like, that is just flat out, they are not.
And they've just started getting the ball rolling to them ultimately not having relevance if people don't actually have to go through the strait.
Well, the argument they're making when they say Iran won, it's not so much that Iran is in a better position. I imagine it's like what it's done to Trump's approval rating and how people reacted to the conflict is probably what they mean by that.
Maybe some of them, but there are a lot of people that are just like, oh, all Iran has to do is survive and they win. And so they're essentially making the argument that because the Iranian regime, the IRGC, they're still in a position of authority, ostensibly. Some of them, at least, are in a position of power in Iran. They're saying that the U.S. lost, but it's not over. First of all, the U.S. I guess they stopped strikes today or what have you.
Friday, right?
I mean, I don't know. They stop them and start them
all the time, right?
Yeah,
every time I'm on the show, they've just stopped.
Yeah, it's legitimately hard to keep track as to whether or not bombs are being dropped on Iran or not as of whatever time it is.
I just noticed the gas prices. That's how I know when something's happening, when the gas prices spike back up again.
Yeah, well, gas prices are probably going to spike again because
they already were.
Well, Trump had dug into the reserves, the strategic reserves, to try to keep prices down. But out of everybody that's actually involved in the conflict in Iran, the U.S. is still in the best position. We've still got oil coming in from Venezuela because we, shifted the relationship with Venezuela.
Shifted.
Yeah,
shifted.
You
That's
like
what kids are calling it.
You like that. But because we changed the politics in the Western Hemisphere. Yeah. So the U.S. is in a much better position than Iran is. Iran, their currency lost something like half of its value or more since the war started. They're continuously losing people in high positions in their government. Just because they can harass ships that go through the Strait of Hormuz doesn't mean that Iran's in some great position and able to project power at all. Clearly, the Ukrainians aren't allowing it. They're not able to supply their partners in the region, if you consider Russia in the region. China can't buy their oil in the same quantities that they were. So it's not like Iran is doing well. Whether or not this actually does expand into something more, we'll see. I don't know. But again, history being any kind of teacher, this is how things, spiral out of control.
I think that's what they told the Delta Force operators when they sent them from Maduro. We're just going to shift things a little bit. Let's go shift stuff.
They just said, "Do you guys want to go?" And they're like, "Hell yeah, we want to go." Yeah. All that support, and we get to run in there and kick in the door. We want to go. I mean, all those dudes are like, I want to be on a history-making mission. And that is one of the more baller things that the U.S. military has done.
Yeah.
Fly into a country, turn the capital off, and just snatch the...
Flawlessly, too.
Yeah, snatch the president and say, you're coming with us.
I think all this has to do with China. And if it was really about Iran, we would have just taken out their infrastructure and it'd be done. I mean, this is like a month. You go in, you target critical infrastructure, the country is just gone. But I think Trump's been yo-yoing back and forth because it keeps the Gulf nations from exporting oil, and it puts a block on this while Trump is acting like he's not the aggressor against the Gulf states. So if the war with Iran resolves, China gets their oil back. Trump needs to hobble this and make sure we're constantly at war with Iran so that the Gulf remains closed.
So to what end? Like, how long can that go on for?
Forever. We're ramping up oil production in the Gulf of America, and we're selling more oil that way. So the U.S. has become a net oil exporter. Then you cut off China, choke them out. Now Ukraine's targeting Iranian shipments to Russia and the Caspian. Sounds like U.S. told them to do it. I don't think Ukraine does anything on their own. So here we go, boys. If China does not strike back, then we just win.
I mean,
sure, great.
Well, I don't know that that Ukraine doesn't do anything on their own, but they definitely would have been, helped by the U.S. U.S. trying to target those ships. I'm not sure that Ukraine has the capability to do those kind of strikes from Ukraine. What's this? Singapore?
I'm just looking at the South
Pacific.
South China Sea.
Yeah, the
Immaterial to the conversation.
one of the things about the South China Sea is China's been building up, essentially islands for their own use. In violation of international law, which is the most fake thing you can imagine. China's still not in a position where they're able to, they as much as they're a threat to the United States. If we were to go to China to fight them, they're not in a position where they can just take on the United States because, we buy everything from them. China is the manufacturing hub basically of the world. They sell a ton of stuff to Europe and a ton of stuff to the United States. If there were to be some kind of conflict that was Russia, China, and Iran, look, it's going to be NATO. And then that means that Europe stops buying Chinese stuff and the U.S. stops buying Chinese stuff on as much as they possibly can. I know that there's oftentimes backroom deals and stuff.
Yeah.
But like the U.S. has been moving to be able to reindustrialize and do some of the manufacturing that we've been relying on China to do. Obviously, we're years away from being, having everything up and running. But the Chinese, they rely on the rest of the world to purchase their goods. So there is a lot of downside for China to get into some kind of conflict. If it makes more sense for China to probably try and keep the peace and work with the Western countries, Europe and the U.S., and try to keep things as close to the status quo as they can, because to Tim's point, they need that kind of revenue. They need that economic activity to keep people from starting to protest and having to put the boot down. Because whether or not they can put the boot down, I'm sure that they don't want to have to do that kind of thing. It causes a massive headache for them. And Xi Jinping, I think he just got rid of half the military. Yeah, there was a purge earlier this year. Yeah. So there's plenty of things in China that are going on that are not good for the party and that they don't want things to get out of control, which I think is part of the reason why in the first place, when the strike started, China didn't come out and say, they didn't say, oh, we're going to help our allies and blah, blah, blah. It's like they were just like, this is probably bad. And that was the extent of it. They didn't make any kind of super strong statements. They didn't say that they were going to send support. They didn't do anything like that. They were just like, yeah, you probably shouldn't attack Iran. It's bad. And that was about the whole thing. So I just don't see China really stepping up.
That's fine. They'll cease to exist then. They don't have the means of getting the energy they need to sustain their population. What's really funny is there's another way you can look at this. Fat people have to eat food to maintain the existing fat on their body.
Yeah.
So, if you are fat and you want to lose weight, you actually don't got to do anything. You literally just eat a normal amount of food, and your body can't sustain the amount of fat on your body, so it reduces itself. That's kind of the point. China has grown to a certain degree because of their energy imports. Now that they're cut off from them, they will not be able to maintain their population size. It will just start
slim
collapsing.
and trim over there.
So they could fight, and if they don't, then their population just starts collapsing faster than it already is. And then they're gone.
Even if they fight, they're going to lose. If it actually becomes a hot war, there's going to be significant loss of life that way too.
Well, that's not an argument against fighting.
I'm just saying that
every fight could result in you fighting someone else could result in your death, but people still choose to do it. The question is, do you just bend the knee and say, my liege, or do you say I'd rather go down swinging? And if your opinion is that China's going to just give up,
I don't think that they're going to give up. I think that
And how do they get their energy imports back?
I don't know, but just because I don't know doesn't mean that they don't have a plan. I mean, right now China's on an all-in type of.
But how do you get your oil back from the Gulf when the Gulf is closed?
So the point that I'm making.
Ask politely.
The point that I'm making is they're in an all-in energy infrastructure buildup. They're building that new dam. They've got the Three Gorges Dam. They've been building, I think, 10 nuclear reactors a year. They've got solar everywhere. So yes, they do need.
You can't transform an oil-based economy in even 10 or 20 years. It's not possible. We're talking generational changes. So if China wants their energy imports back, they have to force the strait open in some capacity. They're not. They're getting cut off from Russia because of Russia's.
They've been going around sanctions for forever.
And we're not talking about sanctions. We're talking about the fact that 44% of their energy is gone because the strait's disrupted. So whether they're bypassing sanctions is immaterial. Russia's fighting a war. The war is expanding. So Russia's sales to China has diminished, and now they just lost half of their energy. They can build whatever dams they want, but they need the calories. The amount of energy you get from oil is insane. Nuclear energy is a lot better, but you still need an initial energy source to manufacture those plants. So again, China's choices are to fight to survive, or they're going to just have a massive depression. They're not going to be able to maintain an oil-based economy. They're already struggling. They're tapping into their strategic reserves, which they had built up just before this war, which is now largely depleted. And now they're deploying electric taxis because they can't, because they don't have the oil for the gas for cars.
China's reserves in December were 1.4 billion barrels.
And then the war started, and they got cut off from half their energy, and they've been tapping into it, and they've been shifting off of gas vehicles for public works because they're hurting. And so whatever the amount that they're burning down now is, they're burning down, and they've lost half their oil. So if China does not find a way to get this energy back, their growth stops, which I think is Trump's intention. Or they fight and try and get it back somehow. But I'm not suggesting China could win. I'm saying that I don't see a likelihood that China just says, bam, I guess we die. Because I don't think any country has ever done that.
That movie's way boring. That movie just doesn't have a satisfying conclusion.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose there are probably countries in existence that have just been like, I give up.
I guess I'll just die then.
Yeah. But like considering like even the Irish were just like, no, and there's always some kind of resistance. I have to imagine the Chinese government's going to try and do something. I mean, the reality is they are trying to do things now. The question is, will they escalate what they're trying to do, and how can they do it? I think obviously what they'll do is they'll attack the U.S. political infrastructure because they need to stop Trump. So I wouldn't be surprised. We already heard from Trump that China was trying to fund these journalists that were anti-Trump so they could hurt him. But Trump wins. Trump's going to be president. We'll see what happens in the midterms, but the internal politics is probably the most important thing on China's docket list, whether or not they can stop Donald Trump and the Republicans. Because if Democrats get in, China's got carte blanche.
I think the other piece is they've done such a huge ground game in Africa. China has. And so I think there's a question of like how much can they juice from there. They've been responsible for a majority of the infrastructure built out there, which is pretty crazy, both for oil and rare earths.
Indeed. And now Trump is like, we're going to start producing our own rare earths. We're going to start producing our own chips. We're going to start mass producing oil. But we are going to go to your Rumble rants and Super Chats, so smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you've ever met in your life. We got the uncensored portion coming up at 10 p.m. You don't want to miss it on Rumble. But for now, let's read what you guys got to say. Phalanx says, if Trump were 10% of the fascists the leftards think he is, he would check those loan details to see if they valued the building above what the IRS says the building is worth. That's a good idea, and he should do that. Filthy Peas, is that what it says? Love your work, Tim. Thank you. I do think the last time you made a mistake. The study about increased housing costs said that 30% of growth was due to illegal migration rather than 30% overall. Agree to disagree. It was talking about the growth of prices. Like that unless you mean like it's not a direct correlation to pricing, just a strain. Is that the point? I don't know. It was talking about price increases. And I don't know what you mean by the growth or overall. You're saying like there are more houses being produced, or you're saying the overall cost has gone up, because the costs have gone up. And the general reporting we saw outside of just the actual article, which used like, acronyms, generally reported was that the price increases was the result of mass migration. Costa says, joining the club in the delivery room, waiting for my wife to give birth to our first. Congratulations. Metho says, we also don't build desalination plants because of the energy requirements. The energy it takes to make that much steam is insane. The way the desalination plant in Carlsbad works is that they have a big warehouse building with PVC pipes. And in them is a very fine filter. It's like 1 micron or something. At high pressure, they blast water through it, which allows water to go through, but not other, minerals and bacteria and whatever else. Then they can't just have crystallized salt jamming up the filters. So what they do is it's not that they're extracting all the salt from the water. It's that they're splitting the water from small amounts of fresh water and large amounts of brine. They then pump that warm brine back into the ocean, which does not immediately mix with the water. It sticks to the bottom because it's heavier, sinks down, and blankets the seabed. That kills all of the lowest forms of life, and then that creates a ripple effect where up the chain, the fish that feed on the plankton, that feed on the bottom feeders, whatever, they all die, and then everything above dies, and you get dead zones. So they don't build these en masse because they're destructive, expensive, inefficient. But you know what? No one ever accused these people, these comedians, of being smart. All right, what do we got here? El Jefe Lopez says, pure bloods, check in. Guido says, Tim, you do know some people are on GLP-1s for diabetes, right? And it works great for type 2. Indeed. That was the initial intention of Ozempic. It was about diabetes. And then they found that people got sick and didn't want to eat food and were like, what happens? Like you vomit? Is that what it is?
All sorts of side effects. And yeah, it started.
Blindness is one.
Well, that,
yeah.
Rare
I think that
cases.
might be true. I've heard that. But yeah, they were like, hey, wait a minute. This makes me feel sick and I don't want to eat. And they were like, you could lose weight by doing this.
Then the people who needed it, the people with diabetes that need it, weren't able to find it for a while because they weren't producing enough because they were prescribing so much for it off label.
I absolutely love that all these fat celebrities that were pretending to enjoy being fat got on Ozempic in 2 seconds. Mm-hmm. And they were like, no, I'm not fat anymore.
Just lies.
It's such a ridiculous thing too, because like all the work that it takes to actually change how you look, it's tied to your ability to not just like not be like an overeater, but also get exercise, which kind of plays a role in like how you feel about yourself, because you're actually taking an active role in changing yourself. So you're just short circuiting your brain and going straight to the easy part, and so none of it sticks when you go off of it.
Hank Fett says, it sounds like Democrats are banking on taking the House and the Senate so they can reopen USAID and go back to funneling money to themselves. Yes.
Yeah.
That sounds like a possibility. Let's see. Mike here says, you can get a charge for hitting someone with a cell phone. Ask Styx. Why? What happened? Anybody know?
Don't know.
He hit someone with a cell phone, huh?
Maybe.
Britt Griffith, Mower Racing, says they are getting a loan to float past the midterms because they think they're going to win and they can restart USAID.
There you go.
Well, they got money coming from somewhere because that's the only way to explain the Odyssey.
What was that?
You didn't hear all the conspiracy theories?
Is USAID's last?
People were
donation?
posting all over on Reddit that they were going to the theaters to see the Odyssey, but the theaters were half empty, despite the fact that they were full and their seats were unavailable. So people would post like, oh, I decided to pick up some tickets for me and my kid, but the theater was full, so I got nosebleed. I got like really bad seats, but when I showed up, nobody was there, so I ended up just sitting in good seats. The conspiracy theory is that Nolan or backers put $100 million into buying up tickets to guarantee big press, big sales, which funnels the money to the theaters and back to them anyway. And then after the press hits, people are like, oh, wow, it must be a big movie. I'll go see it. Now, some people responded by saying, you're insane. That's crazy. They would never do this, which is also the stupidest thing in the world because while I'm not convinced that they put $100 million into buying fake tickets, they do it for literally every single industry.
Well, they do it for books.
They do it for everything.
To put it on the bestsellers list.
There is a mechanism by which every creative industry fabricates their views and numbers and streams or whatever it may be to make it look big. And I will say this. I don't believe, like, listen, go to Times Square, walk up to a random person, and you can say, all right, would you rather go see a horror movie, Backrooms, or would you like to watch a movie, Homer's The Odyssey? They're going to go, I just watched the horror movie. Like, would you rather watch
but you're advertising it wrong. You say Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
Yeah, there you go.
That's not a fair comparison. His name is what sold this movie.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
You don't believe that many people went and saw it?
Well, I don't know about that. I'm just saying that
his movies have a consistent growth box office to box office with every new release, and he did so for Oppenheimer to make $943 million off of the bat. Well, outside of seeing an email from Universal Studios saying like we need to buy this block of tickets, scalpers buy tickets and then eat the cost when they're not able to sell them later.
Yeah, I just think that
things end up on
the idea that the studios buy their own tickets to flub the numbers is probably true. To what degree, I don't know, but they do it for books and they do it for music. Why wouldn't they do it for movies? Why? That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just what the studios do.
So they do buy at blocks tickets mostly for giveaways and promotional things that they hold, right?
And then what happens is the media goes nuts, pumping out a story to everybody saying they just did a $100 million opening weekend, and they go, maybe I should go see it. And that's how you create buzz.
So, okay, so you do that for opening weekend, right? Say we do that, you do it just for opening weekend. It had less than a 30% drop into week 2, which is almost unheard of.
Which kind of proves the point.
That means it made almost as much money in its second weekend as it did in its first weekend.
That kind of proves the point. That you buy up tickets as a marketing play
so
to
the
make
idea
it
is
sound like a top movie.
And then the rest of the
next
people show up.
weekend, people show up.
I mean, maybe. I
just don't think you're going to people and being like, you want to go see The Odyssey? And they're like,
that's not it. They're going to see a Christopher Nolan movie because his name sells tickets.
And they sold all the tickets on pre-sale a year ago.
They sold the IMAX tickets only a year ago because people want to go see stuff in IMAX. It's another thing that contributes to this. One of the big things going on right now is that there are less tickets of this movie being sold than prior films because tickets just cost more than they did in prior years because inflation causes ticket prices to go up.
I'm just saying, you go to a regular person, you say Spider-Man or The Odyssey, and they'll go, what's The Odyssey?
Like I said, you're not advertising. The movie itself is irrelevant. Christopher Nolan's name is what sells this movie.
I'd be willing to bet that if I went to Times Square and said, do you want to go see Spider-Man or Christopher Nolan's latest film, the response is going to be, who's Christopher Nolan?
Well, they're not going to say that, but Spider-Man will sell.
I guarantee you the name recognition for Christopher Nolan versus Spider-Man is like 100 to 1.
The guy who made the Dark Knight trilogy, which is one of the most famous trilogies in all of movies.
Sure is, and people don't know the name Christopher Nolan.
Yes, they do.
Certainly disproportionate amount of people do. But again, I'm saying if you go to Times Square and go around asking people who Christopher Nolan is, 1 in 10 might be like, oh, I know who that is.
There's a reason.
Like, come on. Like movie directors? How many movie directors can an average person name?
Right now.
Michael Bay.
Now.
James Cameron.
Right now, movie
Nolan,
directors are a more bankable thing
Kevin Feige.
for the directors that sell. Well, Feige's not a director. He's just a producer. But right now, they bank more on a director's name selling a movie than they do an actor's name.
Yeah, and I think it's all fake.
Like I said, if somebody
all right, we're gonna make a bet. If out of 100 people asked in Times Square at random, how many of them, what percentage do you think will know the name Christopher Nolan?
60 to 75%.
And like actually be able to name one, like a couple. Let's be fair, like 2 of his movies. Is that fair?
Yeah, because
is 3 fair? Or is 3 too much?
You could name all 3 Batman movies and be done with it. So 3.
I don't know that people are going to know. You are dramatically overestimating the average person. I think people who are into movies will probably know this, but I'd be willing to bet even if you did it. You ever see those? If you did a trivia show, I'd be willing to bet if you did a trivia show and said who was the director of The Dark Knight Rises, they're going to say.
I still don't think this undersells, like, his movie making the money that this isn't like the biggest box office of all time. I don't think the numbers that this movie accomplished lend itself to the idea that they had to create a conspiracy around it to sell it.
It's not a conspiracy.
They're saying, okay,
they
had to use underhanded tactics.
Is it underhanded? Every industry does it. Every single industry does it.
Argument. The point is,
it's not semantics.
It's a semantic argument because the conversation here is about whether this movie organically made the money that it.
So is it marketing or is it people organically showing up to see Homer's The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan?
Rephrase the question.
Is it a marketing?
It's marketing.
Gimmick?
But it's not. But not marketing by way of buying tickets. Marketing by way of spending a year. First of all, you do all the pre-sale tickets to start. You start advertising the movies. You have to see this movie on 70mm IMAX, which is the most expensive ticket that you can buy. You buy up all the IMAX screens for the next 4 months. Spider-Man's not coming out on IMAX. Spider-Man is coming out on PLF screens, but all the IMAX screenings are going through until like November.
The movie industry is not immune to what literally every other industry does. So what's the argument? That this is the one industry that doesn't do it?
That's not what I'm saying. My argument is that the amount of tickets that would need to be bought to influence the $124 million opening
100 million?
domestic, no way.
Yeah,
We'd be seeing
probably.
more. First of all, X would be posting limitless screenshots.
What's the
of
marketing
people,
budget for this movie?
$125 million.
So they're going to spend $125 million in marketing.
Yeah, they flew every cast member out to like 9 different countries. Yeah,
Right. So have there ever been marketing budgets greater than 125 million?
Yes.
Indeed, many, many times. So what if in this instance, despite the fact that it's Christopher Nolan film, the marketing budget is less than some Marvel movies, they went, let's put half the marketing budget towards pre-sale tickets so that we can say it's the #1 movie, which will boost sales in the following week, which did happen.
Would there be, okay, so would there not have been a bunch more photos on X of people being like, this doesn't make any sense. Why am I in this?
There
theater?
were. That's the point.
Not
all over social media, people were posting they were going to theaters, and the theaters were half empty despite the theater being sold out. Now, I'm not saying that proves anything. Some people argue, well, people probably bought pre-sale tickets and then just ended up not showing up.
Or you could
scalpers.
Scalpers. When you buy
Which
pre-sale,
also proves my point.
When you buy tickets, you can have it refunded up until the last minute and still get your money.
My point is, if you go to Times Square and ask somebody about The Odyssey, they're going to be like, if you go, Christopher Nolan's got a Batman movie coming out, they're like, oh, I love Batman. They're not going to go, I love Christopher Nolan.
Oppenheimer did not $924 million. It's literally a biopic that's like almost all governmental hearings.
Yeah,
His
I know,
name
and I
sells
don't
tickets.
believe it.
Okay.
Maybe half that. Maybe 700. The initial 200 is marketing. A company that's going to put $300 million in marketing, why would they not be like, hey, look, if we do $100 million, that money, half of it cycles back to us in the first place. We can then put up in every media apparatus, we're the biggest movie in the world, which works. Like word of mouth. And so, like, for instance, my favorite example of this is Pirates of the Caribbean 2, which sucked ass. But they were running commercials endlessly saying it was the #1 movie in the world.
Well, they can do that if it's #1 on the first
but
Friday
the point
of
was
the month.
Pirates 1 was a really great movie. And people went to see Pirates 2 because Pirates 1 was good. Pirates 2 sucked miserably. But Pirates 1 was awesome. So when they say Pirates 2 is the biggest movie in the world, what they're actually saying is Pirates 1 is the biggest movie in the world and people are hungry for more. So again, that's the point. When you are able to put in media, it's hit 100 million. It's a massive weekend. It's a $1 billion movie. It's the biggest movie. You got to go see it. People hear this. The media starts playing the story over and over and over again. It's worth more in marketing to buy 100 million tickets than it is to buy 100 million in TV commercials.
That is a lot of seats. And there was not yes, there was a lot of pictures. How many pictures did you see on X of empty screenings? Was it $100 million worth of 15 pictures? So theoretically,
and there were like 30 posts on Reddit being like, "Yo, I went to a theater and it was half empty." There was a couple posts where they're like, "I work at a theater. We thought it was gonna be busy, but it wasn't, even though we were sold out."
If every single one of those was real, okay, that does not equal out to $100 million worth of purchased tickets. There would be way more examples of
right because again, let's just say 50 million is self-bought like they do, like they would with a book or a song, but movies are bigger, so they'll spend 50 million towards their marketing budget in buying up seats using various companies so that they can claim they've got a bigger weekend than they do, which results in positive press, which word of mouth then travels and results in further sales for the next weekend, which did happen.
Here's the other
I
thing.
could see them doing that within the first weekend, where if they're like #2 or #3 to another movie, they just dump more money, so they're at #1, which probably helps them next
look at what Endgame did. Because they lost to Avatar, they added unfinished, unrendered CGI and did a bonus re-release just so that they could sell enough tickets to claim they beat Avatar in the box office.
Wow.
There's also
it's all fake.
There was no reason to do that because there was no other movies opening this weekend that mattered. Like if it was like, for instance, Doomsday comes out the same day as Dune. Okay,
that's crazy.
There might be reasons for some chicanery right there.
They're gonna move that. There's no way they pull that off.
Yeah.
Who do you think is going to move?
I don't see why Doomsday would keep that date. Why don't they just move it forward a week?
If I'm Dune, I'm the one that's moving.
I want to be
Dune
before.
opened to under 100 million and then did 715 million worldwide first for Dune Part 2. If I'm one of them, Dune's the one that's blinking.
We got to go to the uncensored portion of the show, so smash the like button, share the show with everyone you've ever met. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. Sir, do you want to shout anything out?
Thank y'all for having me. If you know of a small business owner who is retiring, we would love to partner with them. help preserve the American dream in your town, reach out at AmericanOperator.com. Follow me on X at BuySellSMB.
Guys, if you want to follow me, I am on Instagram and on X at Brett Dastovic on both those platforms. Check out PCC. We are live normally Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is, of course, noon Pacific. There will be no show tomorrow. We will be back to our regularly scheduled program on Wednesday. Hope to see you there, guys. Thanks for having me.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram, or no, actually, man, that's the old one. I'm Phil That Remains on Twix. You can check out my Patreon. It's at Phil That Remains. You can check out the band All That Remains at Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, YouTube, Spotify, and Deezer. Don't forget the left lane is for crime.
Carter Banks, you can find me at Carter Banks, everywhere at Carter Banks Official, everywhere else. Just want to say thank you to everyone who came out to the Discord event on Friday. Met a lot of you, and it was a great time. Follow Trash House Records at Trash House Records on YouTube, and let's get into the after show.
We'll see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL right now. Thanks for hanging out.